presents a special edition of the Major League Baseball Game of the Week. Tonight, from Yankee Stadium, it's the Chicago White Sox versus the New York Yankees. Brought to you by Ford, who invites you to drive the new Ford Escort. Have you driven a Ford lately? By light beer from Miller, everything you've always wanted in a beer, and less. By the new GI Bill, now in the U.S. Armed Forces. It's a great place to start. And by Mr. Goodwrench and General Motors Parts.
On an almost fall evening in New York, welcome to Yankee Stadium, where the New York Yankees and Marty Bystrom will play host to the Chicago White Sox and Britt Burns. Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully, along with Joe Garagiola, and without a doubt, there is a trace of fall in the air.
And you know, when you said the word fall, two thoughts ran through my mind. Fall, yes, because maybe the season will be over with the strike looming, and then the road trip that the Yankees had, it was some fall. They had a tough one.
It was almost embarrassing. Realize they lost 5 out of 8 to Texas and Cleveland, and they came home having lost 3 straight to Low, the poor Indians, which is almost disgraceful here in the borough of the Bronx.
And talking about the strike, clubs are playing like they think that, well, we better get as high as we can because we may not have a full season.
The White Sox thought they were going to get close. Now that they get word that the California Angels have John Candelaria, George Hendrick, and Al Holland, that 5-game lead of the Angels seems even bigger. We'll get to the lineups right after this.
Hi, I'm Tom Seaver of the Chicago White Sox, and they're managed by Tony La Russa. Tonight's lineup will be Luis Salazar leading off for the White Sox in center field. Hitting second, Brian Little at second base. Hitting third in right field and playing right field, a very consistent Harold Baines. Our cleanup hitter is Greg Walker from Douglas, Georgia. Hitting behind him, the Major League leader in home runs, Carlton Fisk. He'll be doing the catching. Our DH for tonight's game, ex-Yankee, Oscar Gamble. Playing left field, hitting 7th, Ron Kittle. Behind him, playing third base, a very steady young ball player, a real gutty ball player, Timmy Hewlett. Hitting 9th, Ozzie Guillen, a very exciting young player and one of the real thrills of the Chicago White Sox this season. And pitching, Britt Burns, a big left-hander from Alabama. It's always a pleasure to be on NBC Sports and enjoy tonight's game.
Well, thank you, Tom. And, of course, everyone here in New York waiting for Sunday to see whether Siebel will get number 300 in the city where it all began.
It is really ironic the way the schedule is worked out. Yankee Stadium is a sellout, and not only will it be Tom Seaver Day, it's Phil Rizzuto Day. They'll be retiring his uniform, so there'll be a lot of folks here on Sunday. Here's the defense. The sample is in left field. Henderson, we all know about Henderson, and he's got a lot of room to roam, and he can get that job done. Winfield is in right field. Dale Berra, an infrequent start for Dale. He's at third base. Robertson is the shortstop. Randolph is at second base. Mattingly at first base. Weiniger behind the plate. Bystrom the pitcher, and this will be the first time he's caught him. In fact, I was asking him about that, and he said, well, I'll have to find out just exactly how he thinks when we have our meeting.
It'll be very interesting indeed for Marty Bystrom. It is only his 2nd start of the year and his first at Yankee Stadium. And he'll face Luis Salazar, Brian Little, and then Harold Baines. Salazar is a strange leadoff man. He takes a breaking ball strike. He never walks. He draws a walk about every 25 at-bats in his career, and he's only walked 8 times this year. He has struck out 4 times as many times as he walked. So he's just the opposite of what you would think you'd want hitting in the number 1 slot. Luis Salazar. High fly ball to center. Ricky Henderson is there. So 2 pitches, and we have 1 away. Salazar, a fly ball to Henderson. That'll bring up Brian Little. Brian Little, acquired from the Expos last December in exchange for pitcher Bert Roberge, plays exclusively against right-handers. When he was at Montreal, we saw a good deal of him. He was an excellent bunter. And we'll see what he does against the Yankees.
Dale Berra has moved in close to third. The grass is high. It's hard in front of home plate, so it will work in his favor if he does indeed bunt.
Brian Little with his .238 average, and boy, they have really brought in the corners. A full swing, base hit into right field. So Brian Little Line drive single to right with 1 out. That will bring up Harold Baines, and Baines coming off a good night last night. He had 4 hits, 3 RBIs, and scored 3 in a doubleheader against the Red Sox.
We've heard Billy Martin talk so much about first ball fastball hitters that with Salazar and with Little, it was breaking pitches that they started him off with. I was paying particular attention to that because Billy has a thing about first ball fastball hitters.
Harold Baines, you can see his numbers, has come alive again. He had 318 in July, and last year he ate up the league in August. So we'll see what he does now with Little at first and 1 out. Wednesday night, Harold Baines was the DH in Boston. The first time in his career he filled that role. Speed with a little break at the end of it. 1 ball and no strikes. Marty Bystrom coming back from surgery on his right elbow to remove bone chips and to repair the ulnar nerve. That was performed last November. 2 balls and no strikes.
Baines has a good hole to shoot through since Mattingly has to hold Little close at first base, and now with the count 2 balls and no strikes, he'll be looking to pull that ball.
Little held on by Mattingly at first. 2 balls and no strikes the count. Line drive into right field, but Little had a hold, so he can only move to second. For a split second, it appeared like Randolph might flag it. So Bystrom is stung. Back-to-back singles by Little and Baines, and it'll bring up Greg Walker. Bystrom came to New York in a deal that sent Shane Rawley to Philadelphia. Now that deal was 17 months ago, and it hadn't worked out very well because Bystrom has won 2 games in 17 months, and Rawley has won 17 for Philadelphia. So here is Walker. 0-1.
You're going to be seeing one of the real smooth swings as we look at the base runners, Little and Baines. In Walker, he's got a great swing. Charlie Lau, talking about Kittle and Walker, says Kittle will hit home runs, but Walker will be a hitter.
Walker has 1 home run against the Yankees this year. Off speed, hit into right field. That's 3 straight hits. Little is being waved in. Winfield overruns the ball, can't pick it up, and going to third is Baines. And the White Sox lead 1-0. And the Wolves are out early.
He has not been throwing hard off-speed pitches. Here's that smooth swing. Waited on the ball to get to him. Pulls it into right field. And Winfield charges it hard and has a little bit of trouble picking it up. He made 2 grabs at it. There he finally gets it, but it'd have been first and third anyhow because Baines can run.
So 3 hits and a run following the fly ball. Billy Martin back in the Yankee dugout, having just been released from the hospital in Texas, and he arrived here today and is well enough to take over the helm again. Here is Carlton Fisk, leading the big leagues with his 28 home runs. Rich Bordy now begins to throw down in the Yankee bullpen. Fisk hitting .250 against the Yankees. Breaking ball strike, 0-1.
He has not turned it loose yet, and they've been able to jump on that off-speed pitch that he's been throwing.
Carlton Fisk with his 28 home runs, good hit and run man, also a good bunter, and of course really flexing his muscles. He might very well break Lance Parrish record for home runs. 0-1. Fastball, and he was a little late on it, didn't get around, and the count 0-2.
Brings up that thing we were talking about last week, Vin, that you have to realize what a pitcher's best pitch is on that night, and it looks like Butch is still trying to figure out what Bystrom really has going for him.
And he better figure out in a hurry, because Carlton Fisk enjoying the finest season of his career. His last 2 home runs for Carlton were up in Boston, so it's 2 more than his previous single season high of 26. Breaking ball hit to right center. Going back is Winfield. He has a play. Tagging at third is Baines to score. It is 2-0 in favor of the White Sox, just like that, as Fisk picks up his 68th run batted in. And with 2 down, the batter will be Oscar Gamble.
If I had to pick one guy in the lineup that would be especially tough for Bystrom, it would be Gamble, because he's right on top of that plate. He's got an open stance, a perfect stance for this short right field porch here at Yankee Stadium. That front foot will be opened up, and I think if he got any closer to the plate, it'd be in the right-hand hitter's batter's box. He really gets on top of it. Watch him.
Oscar Gamble played for the Yankees in 1976, and he also played from 79 through 84. But last year, he hit only 184, and he was gone, picked up by Chicago. Off-speed breaking ball, ball 1.
With that center field shot, watch his hands. They're actually on the inside part of the plate. If he got hit on the hands, it would be a strike. Look at that. He's right on top of it.
1 ball and no strikes. Off speed, slipped in there nicely. 1-1. Back in 1976, Gamble and Lou Piniella platooned in right field and helped the Yankees win the pennant. And before the 77 season, Gamble and a pitching prospect named Lamar Hoyt were traded by the Yanks to the White Sox for Bucky Dent. 1-1. Fastball, ball 2. Gamble hit a career-high 31 home runs for the Sox in 77. But then he signed a 6-year contract with San Diego as a free agent. And he was a free agent when the Sox signed him this year. He's always had a great home run swing. And there goes the runner, Walker. The throw is into center field. And Walker is on his way to third and makes it. So Weiniger may be a little rusty and throws it into center. For Greg Walker, it is only his 3rd stolen base, and there'd be an error charge.
If you're going to make a bad throw, that's the way to make it. Get that something on the ball. He really had something on it as he really overshot the mark, and it'll be an error on Butch.
So with 2 out, 2 runs in for the Sox. They have a runner at third, and the count 2-2 to Oscar Gamble.
Look at Gamble and you look at Ricky Henderson. That's not much of a strike zone, Vin. They really crouch over the plate.
And you know, if you make a mistake, they can each take you deep. 3-2. Breaking ball hit to the right side. Randolph almost fell down. So 2 runs, 3 hits, a stolen base, an error, a man left. And at the end of half an inning, the White Sox 2 and the Yankees coming up.
In Walker, he's got a great swing. Charlie Lau, talking about Kittle and Walker, says Kittle will hit home runs, but Walker will be a hitter.
Here's the way the Yankee lineup stacks up. Ricky Henderson in center field leading off, and Don Mattingly will be at first base. Dave Winfield hitting in the 3rd slot in right field, and Don Baylor the DH. In left field, Billy Sample. The catcher, Butch Weiniger. At second base, Willie Randolph. The shortstop, Andre Robertson. Bobby Meacham hurt his wrist making a tag last night in Cleveland. And at third, Dale Berra.
Here's the way the defense lines up. Kittle, Salazar, and Baines in the outfield. Kittle says he is 100%. He's coming off a rehab program. Timmy Hewlett at third base. He's a transplanted second baseman, and Tony La Russa is really high on him. He said, don't look at the number of errors. He's been playing good third base for us. Guillen is the shortstop. Little, Walker at first base. Carlton Fisk behind the plate, and Burns is the pitcher. Burns came up as a power pitcher, but he has to get his off-speed pitches over the plate to really be effective. And if he can spot that off-speed pitch that he's got, he can be tough.
Well, Britt Burns, who has turned his year around a little bit. He was 4-1 in July with an ERA of less than 3.5. Big left-hander has struck out as many as 12 in a game. His high in walk 6, and he'll be working on Ricky Henderson, Don Mattingly, and Dave Winfield. Interestingly enough, when Burns struck out the 12, he lost that game. Britt pitched a game. Remember in the playoffs, they were saying he went too long. He made 150 pitches. But Tony La Russa really stays with him. He pitched a game against Baltimore this year where he led 8-0, went all the way, and wound up winning 10-8. Talking about hanging by your fingertips. 1 ball and no strikes to Ricky Henderson, a one-man gang. Henderson hitting .352. right behind George Brett, who is hitting .353. Ricky has hit in 8 of his last 9, including 4 home runs, 7 RBIs, and 9 runs scored. Every superlative in the books has been put upon him this year. 2 balls and no strikes. In there. 2-1. Henderson, a particularly volatile leadoff man. He's reached base in the first inning better than half of the last 40 games, and then most of the times he comes around to score. 2-1. Ball 3.
He's been described so many ways, but Eckersley of the Cubs, when he was at the Red Sox, put it, I think, best. He said, walk him and he turns it into a double, put him in the outfield, he'll take a triple and make an out of it.
And if he gets aboard in the first inning, they have broken it down. He is so successful that in the last 23 games in which he's gotten aboard, the Yankees have won 16 of them. So here's 3-1, and he is aboard. So Britt Burns opens up on a bad note by walking Don Mattingly. Excuse me, Henderson. Here comes Mattingly, and there's the note on Henderson about what happens when he gets aboard in the first inning and scores. Mattingly hitting .307. Henderson, by the way, although the Yankees are down 2-0, has only been thrown out by a catcher once this year. California's Bob Boone got him. The other 3 times he was picked off.
You would think that he has the green light to run, but Billy has 2 signs with him. He has one which is a mandatory takeoff, and the other one where he just gives him a sign and says, it's your option. If you think you can make it, take off.
Henderson held on by Greg Walker. Ricky with 47 stolen bases, 47 out of 51.
He doesn't take that big a lead off first base. 3.5 strides is as big a lead as he needs. He has measured it, and he likes to take that, I'd say, rather short lead, because it is deceiving to the pitcher. Like, well, I'm not going, and you look up and he's a mirage. He's gone.
He's an echo. 1 ball and no strikes to Don Mattingly. Henderson with 47 stolen bases. You think of the Yankees as power, the Bronx Bombers. The Yankees haven't had a player steal 50 since George Snuffy Sternweiss did it back in 1944. Walker, Little, Guillen, and Hewlett, Kittle, Salazar, and Baines in the outfield. Carlton Fisk behind the plate. The Yankees have a great home record. They're tied with the St. Louis Cardinals, the best home teams in the big league. They've won 32 of 45 here at Yankee Stadium.
That's a great shot we have when you see Henderson's eyes. He's looking at the pitcher. He's not looking at the hitter at all. He's concentrating on the pitcher. He's drawn to throw. You can't just say, well, they're down by a couple runs, he's going to be there. Here, he's checking with the first base coach there. Still checking. He's got ideas, all right. Now he's checking the pitcher.
Missed, ball 2, so Burns probably had one eye on Henderson while making the pitch to Mattingly.
You know the thing that when you get a base runner like that on, it not only breaks the concentration of the pitcher, the infield has to play shallow. They have to cheat towards the bag, and it helps the hitter. Speed, I'm telling you, you need a guy like that, disruptive force.
Time now as Tony La Russa apparently hollering something out, and Joe Brinkman, the plate umpire, will now advance towards the White Sox dugout, and here comes Tony. And no strikes on Don Mattingly. Tony La Russa growling with Joe Brinkman for the second. 2-0 in favor of the White Sox, and the Yankees trying to come back immediately. Mattingly, when asked to name his 5 toughest pitchers to hit against, The #1 man he mentioned was Britt Burns. The 2-0 pitch on the hands and full foul. There wasn't much else he could do with that pitch. It was inside. 2-1.
Mattingly is checking with Gene Michael, giving him a good look because they got that manager's delight count up there. 2 balls and 1 strike. A lot of things you can do. Billy gives the signs, and Billy usually gives them to the third base coach a hitter ahead.
2-1. The count to Don Mattingly. Just missed. Ball 3. Show you how important Britt Burns has been to the White Sox. From May the 13th to July the 19th, a little over 2 months, the White Sox had only 3 complete games. Britt Burns had all 3 of them. They were all shutouts, and they were against Cleveland. Now let's watch Henderson. Will they play run and hit?
You got to figure if he's going to run him 3-2, which you would assume he would, he'd run him 3-1. So if Fisk, I'm sure, is looking for Henderson to run, as Billy Martin has already flashed his sign. He doesn't like to take the bat out of the hitter's hands. He'll play run and hit as opposed to hit and run.
And Mattingly doesn't strike out less than 10% of the time, so he's a good gamble. 3-1. The count of Mattingly with Winfield on deck. 2-0 White Sox. First inning, just the start of things. There's Big Dave waiting his turn. Henderson goes, and the pitch is lifted to right field and deep. Back goes Baines to the track, to the wall, gone. Hitting his 13th home run of the year. The league leader in RBIs now has 82.
3-1, out over the plate, maybe a shade inside, but look at that follow through. He really waited for that ball to get there and swung into action, and boom, it's all tied up. 3-1, that's always a dangerous count. 3-1, 2-0, hitters love it.
So the batter now is Dave Winfield, and we're all even. 2-2 in the first inning. By the way, that is the 18th home run that Britt Burns has given up this year. 18. Boy, that's a lot of dingers. 1 ball and no strikes. Whoa, I was a little angry on that swing.
Well, and really no reason to. Burns on the first pitch was trying to move Winfield off the plate. The guy ahead of you hits a home run, and then you come up and you crowd the plate and you take away his half of the plate. There's only one thing you can do is move you back. That was not a knockdown pitch. It really pushed him back.
1-1. Now he goes outside, so 2 balls and 1 strike. Winfield in his last 15 games has not had a lot of base hits, but he's had 11 RBIs. And scored 13. He's been very busy. Foul tip, 2-2.
I tell you, I almost have to paraphrase our good friend Lee Trevino. Show me a pitcher who won't go inside, and he's like a golfer who has to chip for pars. Won't be around very long.
He got it in far enough to Mattingly the first time. The ball to Don pulled foul, but then he got it over the plate. Now let's see what he does with Winfield. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Low with him. 3-2. A 2-2 tie in the first inning. The Sox had 3 hits and a scoring fly ball, and the Yankees get a walk to Henderson and a home run by Mattingly. And on deck, Don Baylor. The DH. On the corner, and Winfield can't believe it.
Looked like a breaking ball. It just caught that outside corner. Let's take a look at it. I think Winfield thinks it's low. Like he turned it over.
Yeah, he sure did. The Winfield is caught looking, 1 out. And the batter will be Don Baylor. Show you how he has changed. He had only 11 RBIs in June, and he had 21 in July. In the last 10 games, Don hitting about .315. So he is alive and well with that bat, despite that .244 average. You can see he's got a lot of sock. 1 ball and no strikes. 1-1. The Yankees come home smarting, having lost 3 out of 5 and 3 straight to Cleveland. And Billy Martin, who had been in the hospital, was spared watching his club play so poorly against the Indians. 0-2.
I think he had one of those meetings, though, one of those
top level.
Well, even before that, we did see George Steinbrenner go in with Billy Martin. I'm talking about before they came out for infield practice. I think he had one of those chew out the player meetings.
All 3-1. Baylor has done a complete about face. The month of June, he hit 179. And in the month of July, he hit 310.
He's moved back from the plate.
3-1. 3-2 the count to Don Baylor, and a 2-2 tie in the first inning. The beginning of a 7-game homestand for the Yankees, and for Tony La Russa, he never saw 2 runs disappear so quickly.
You can see how far back he stands. It used to be he could hit with a lot of pitches. Those elbows look like they were right over the inside corner. Now he's giving them some room, but he's striding into the ball.
3-2. Check swing foul. Interesting when you look at Baylor and realize the score 2-2. The Yankees playing so well at home. The Yankees have also a remarkable record at home against Western Division teams. They are 24-3. They've lost only 3 games at Yankee Stadium to the West. So La Russa and the White Sox really have their work cut out. 1 out, 2-2 in the first inning, 3-2 the count to Don Baylor. Billy Sample on deck. High fly ball down the right field line. Walker chasing it, but that's going to peel well back into the crowd. So it's still 3-2.
A unique ballpark for foul balls. A lot of room behind the plate, it appears, but as you get down towards both foul lines, it really shortens up.
It disappears as quickly as real estate in Wrigley Field. 3-2. And that's foul back upstairs. Give you an idea about home run records in the majors. And those home records, the Yankees and the Cardinals tied. Toronto right back of them. 5 of the Yankee losses at home are by 1 run. Now, they have really been tough here. Fouled away. Still 3-2 to Don Baylor. The Yankees come home in second place, 8.5 games back. The White Sox come in here from Boston in 4th place, 5.5 games back. However, for the White Sox, they have to feel really shaken by the deal involving Pittsburgh and the California Angels today. Fouled away. The Angels become very formidable now, receiving John Candelaria, George Hendrick, and Al Holland, dealing away Pat Clemens, Mike Brown, and a minor leaguer.
And with the strike in the picture, the California Angels, and I know all clubs are crying poverty, they picked up some hefty paychecks.
Yeah, that's right. 3-2 the count to Don Baylor. 2-2 in the first inning. A drive into shallow center. Salazar makes the catch. Good play by Salazar. Tough to get a jump jump on that kind of a ball, because although it sounded pretty good, Baylor didn't get much of it at all.
Looked like he hit it on the end of the bat. When you got a big guy like Baylor swinging, because from center field, I'm sure you'd want to string some lines on that bat. Must look like a telegraph pole, and Salazar waited for the ball just a bit, realized he'd have to come charging in, and he made a fine running catch.
And remember, of course, Salazar is normally a third baseman. He played center field in that doubleheader up at Boston. So with 2 down, here is Billy Sample. One thing I'm sure, if you take an infielder and put him in the outfield, instinctively on a ball that's hit, he's going to move in. Where if you take an outfielder, he instinctively moves back. So maybe in this particular instance, Salazar, basically an infielder, made the instinctive step, and it was in the right direction. 0-2. Sample, who looks like a hitter who is struggling, is. In his last 10 games, he's hitting 136. Fouled away. The White Sox 2 and the Yankees 2. We're just starting out. First inning.
When a fella is struggling at the bat, he's just not sure of it. You can see on that pitch, he started, stopped, and then went after it and just kind of fouled it off like you're feeling for the ball.
The word tentative must have been invented by a hitter in a slump. 1-2.
You become a hope hitter. You hope that you get a good swing. You hope you hit it. You hope it drops. And you hope they don't release you.
Yeah. Well, Britt is working hard. 1-2. High pop foul off to the right of the plate. Fisk and Walker coming to the Yankee dugout. No play. Still 1-2.
Even though Fisk did not make the play, that was really a good lesson for the young catcher. He still has his mask in his hand. He had it in his hand. He looked to see where the, watch him look. Now he's looking. See him look to make sure where he is exactly. He's following it now. He looks. He stops right there. And had that ball been in play, he'd have gotten rid of that mask. But that was just a classic example of what to do when you get near that dugout. He knew exactly where he was.
1-2 the count to Billy Sample. And there's one hit into left field, sinking for a base hit. So in a 2-2 tie, Butch Weiniger, who's been reinstated from the 15-day disabled list, coming out. He was placed on the DL July 18th due to a sprained lower back. And to make room for Weiniger, catcher, infielder, outfielder Scott Bradley has been optioned to Columbus. So Butch Weiniger hitting .233. 4 home runs, 23 RBIs, a 2-2 tie in the first inning. The White Sox have an average time per game of 2 hours and 55 minutes. That's their average time. It would be here a while. 4-1.
That's how Bobby Valentine got in trouble. The Texas manager, he said, when you play the White Sox, you think they're getting paid by the hour.
Well, Tony La Russa is sensitive about it now. He was saying that people in supermarkets ask him, you know how long you guys take to play 9, etc. And he's trying to think of something to do about it. But right now, he's thinking about the last out in the first inning. 1 ball and no strikes. The count to Butch Weiniger. Sample at first, held on by Greg Walker.
Weiniger was the man that Billy Martin was talking to when Billy was in the hospital. Weiniger was giving him a play-by-play, and it was Weiniger who would give the signs to Piniella for pitch-outs. They got one there in time from Billy and got the man. The other one, they couldn't get the sign to Piniella in time, and the guy did run, but they missed him.
Ball 2. Billy Sample at first has not been involved in a stolen base. Butch Weiniger, you might remember, was hit in the head. A line drive off the bat of Ricky Henderson while Weiniger was in the on-deck circle. He's been struggling ever since, and then the sprained lower back. But he's up there now with a count 2 balls and no strikes. 2-2 tie, first inning. In there. 2-1. Weiniger has played in a total of 64 games this year. That's all. 2-1 to Butch. beautiful weather in New York. The temperature at the start of the game was above 70, and they're expecting it to go somewhere in the 60 to 65 degree range. So there is a definite taste to fall. And that's it to center. Luis Salazar is there. And that's it. The Yankees get 2 on the home run by Mattingly with Henderson aboard. And at the end of an inning, the White Sox 2 and the Yankees 2. High up in the heavens overlooking New York, the Goodyear blimp America from Houston. And flying tonight, Captain John Moran, who makes his home in Houston. Down on the ground, we go to the second inning. Ron Kittle, Tim Hewlett, and Ozzie Guillen. And it's a 2-2 tie in the second inning. Britt Burns labored a long time in the vineyards. He made 37 pitches in the first inning. And Kittle is promptly hit by the pitch to open up the second. So Kittle, who had been out with a shoulder injury, is nailed and goes to first. And Tim Hewlett coming up.
You can see Weininger moving over once that fastball inside, and it just rides inside, clips him right on the, looks like the left elbow. And they've got a base runner.
So in a 2-2 tie in the second inning, here's Tim Hewlett. Tim getting a chance at third from Springfield. With the White Sox briefly the last couple of years. He's a natural second baseman, converted to third. Takes a strike.
La Russa simply describes him as one of those guys who you can't really say he does one thing outstanding, but does a lot of little things very well. A good, steady player.
He has 3 home runs, 26 RBIs. That's on the corner. Strike 2, 0-2. Hewlett at Denver last year led the team with 16 home runs, so he has some stock. 0-2 the count. It's a one-hopper, flagged at short. They get one back to Mattingly, and they get the double play. Robertson to Randolph to Mattingly.
The ball was not hit that hard, kind of off the end of the bat, but that grass will slow it down. A one-hopper, you can see Randolph gets it in good shape. Really a routine double play.
Here's Ozzie with 2 out in the second inning in a 2-2 tie. 6-4-3 double play. Ozzie from Venezuela, following Chico Carrasquel and Luis Aparicio, and has a reputation of being a first ball hitter. Big slow curve for a strike.
And his hero, and he wears his number 13, Dave Concepcion. And I tell you, it's so rare to see a ball player wearing socks the way he's wearing them, nice and high, like they used to wear them in the old days, instead of those stirrups that they wear now.
Old-fashioned player. 0-1 to count. Ozzie hitting .262. No home runs, 20 RBIs, fouled away. He's hit in 10 of his last 14, and over the 2 weeks, he's hit .438, even swinging a hot bat. He's been the White Sox leading July hitter. And at Boston, he went 3 for 4 in the opening game. He has only made 8 errors this year. Ground ball to the right side to Randolph. Over to Mattingly, and that's it in the top of the second. So at the end of an inning and a half, the White Sox 2 and the Yankees 2 on a beautiful evening in the Big Apple. Take a slice of it. We're going to the bottom of the second inning, a 2-2 tie. Willie Randolph, Andre Robertson, and then Dale Berra. Randolph, the middleman on the double play, hitting .289. And remember, Britt Burns, who made 37 pitches in the first inning. So the 26-year-old left-hander is going to have to be very tough tonight. In there. To Willie Randolph, hitting .289. That's on the corner. Strike 2. 0-2. Randolph, for over 2 weeks, has been hitting close to .330. And for the last 28 games, he's hit .350. No balls, 2 strikes. And 2. Left-handed Britt Burns with a record of 11-7, 6-4 lifetime against the Yankees. Last start, Baltimore snapped his 4-game winning streak. They beat him at Comiskey 6-1. Fouled away. He hadn't lost since the 29th of June against Minnesota. Reacting to a scramble for the foul ball. 1-2 the count to Willie Randolph. A 2-2 tie in the 2nd inning. Got him. Phil Niekro pitched last night briefly in Cleveland, but he went the distance tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Phil Niekro.
He played for the Braves for nearly 20 years. King George made the deal while Atlanta shed the tears. There is no doubt the South is really lost. Thank you, Atlanta, for sending him to us. Hey, Niekro, throw that.
Well, it's Polish night here at Yankee Stadium, and Phil went the distance. I think he danced with a half a dozen ladies.
I think that's where he got his running in, was dancing.
There he is. At 46, had a lot of fun. 1 ball and no strikes to Andre Robertson.
Might just add, being Polish night, Eddie Lopat, former great Yankee pitcher, White Sox pitcher, and Joe Collins, they were honored before the game.
Well, wait a minute, Collins can't be Polish.
Well, he changed his name.
I think so.
Yeah, just a little bit. A lot of us did that.
A little bit. 1-1 to count. Ball 2, 2-1. Andre Robertson didn't figure to play. He was 1 for 12 in his last few games, but Bobby Meacham with the sore wrist. Andre's in there. 2-2, 2nd inning, 1 away. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Britt Burns given 2 to lean on in the 1st inning, but the Yankees came right back and tied it up on a 2-run home run from Don Mattingly. And that takes care of Andre Robertson. Couple of scores. San Diego, Houston scoreless in the 2nd inning. The Cubs knocked off the Mets 2-1. Pittsburgh leading Montreal 2-0 in the 4th inning. And the Dodgers in a twilight night doubleheader beat Cincinnati 5-3. Oral Hershiser, the winner, is now 12-3. Rick Honeycutt due to pitch the 2nd game. That's a strike to Dale Berra. A couple of more. Atlanta leading the Giants 4-0 in the 4th inning. And the Tigers with an edge on Milwaukee in the 4th, 1-0. Baltimore, Cleveland, 1-1 in the 3rd. Toronto leading Texas by 1, 4-3 in the 4th. Dale Berra hitting 9th. Should be a little rusty. He played in only 4 games in the month of July and only 12 games in the month of June. That's no way to keep a stroke. He's hitting .229. He's had just 4 hits in his last 29 at-bats. That's a lot of sitting.
It is. It is.
Yankees got home from Cleveland. I think Dale said he got to bed about 4 o'clock this morning.
Yeah, I talked to Yogi today. He said, I called Dale. I wanted to go visit him. He said, don't come over. I'm going to bed.
2-1 on the corner. You know what I was thinking, how the days fly by. The last time we did a Yankee White Sox game was in Comiskey Park on Saturday, and the Yog was let go the next day.
Right. Well, he's very happy, very healthy, enjoying life.
2-2, and that's hit foul off first out of play, so that would make it April the 28th. Time really goes flying by.
Been playing golf every day, but he said he's got problems. Handicap has gone up as we look at Billy Martin. He said he never played golf in the summertime, and the grass is high in the summer. He just learned that.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Curve ball hit to shortstop. Guillen is there. Ozzie flips it over to first, and a quiet 2nd inning. So at the end of 2 at Yankee Stadium, a 2-2 tie. And we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. We're going to the 3rd inning here at Yankee Stadium. The White Sox 2 runs, 3 hits. The Yankees 2 runs, 2 hits. And the big home run by Don Mattingly with Henderson aboard. Second time around now for Luis Salazar, Brian Little, and then Harold Baines.
Just wondered if that was going to be a curveball like the first time up he threw him a curveball, and it was.
Here, give you an idea how Salazar has been playing. He really struggled in May and June, and he's bounced back nicely. Fastball, and he was late, jammed him, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike. When you think back to the White Sox of 2 years ago, in 1983, they led the major leagues in runs. And yet for Tony La Russa and company, it has been a struggle. Scoring runs, plagued by both injuries to their lineup and also some bad years by some people. Fouled away, 1-2.
What's he got? About a 15-man roster now with the injuries he's got. Rudy Law's about to come off the list. Be ready to play.
Give the folks some idea of the injuries. You had Richard Dotson with shoulder surgery. He's gone. Al Jones with a strained elbow. He's out. Bob James was out with the bad knee, but he came back to pitch yesterday. Rudy Law's on the DL with a hamstring. Mark Hill has had a bad hip. Reed Nichols joined the ball club and proceeded to pull a muscle. Ron Kittle had a shoulder injury, and Jerry Hairston has a bad knee, but he's playing, and Hairston has a date for surgery as soon as the season is over. So for the White Sox, half the time it looked like Buffalo was there. We will leave Yankee Stadium, and we will go to NBC News for this update, and we'll be back. Our thanks to John, and of course it is a particularly sensitive area for all of us who must fly for a living, and our prayers go to each and every one involved. 2-2 in the 3rd inning. Salazar with an infield single is going to steal second base. Weininger did not get a grip on the ball and couldn't make a throw.
Salazar had a tremendous jump. You can run on Bystrom, but Salazar really gets a good jump. And there he goes. And once again, it's a straight steal. You can see he's not even worried about the hitter. He's got his eyes set on second base. And Weininger doesn't even make the throw.
So Salazar at second base. And now with nobody out in a tied-up ball game, we'll see whether Brian Little tries to lay one down.
He could try to drag one past the pitcher because he's got to pick up the base with the out. That's be a big play here. He's got, if he's going to make the out, he's got to at least get him over to third.
Berra and Mattingly have shortened up, and the pitch almost hit him on the left knee. 2 balls and 1 strike to count. 2 runs, 4 hits for the White Sox. 2 runs, 2 hits for the Yankees, and a good long look at Jim Leyland to see if the bunt is on. Playing a little caddy corner at third. He has to make a quick decision as to whether to come or go back to the bag. Mattingly is about even at first. Are they going to charge him a strike? Yes, says Joe Brinkman. And the count 2-2.
Here's the last pitch. Did he go around? He didn't even ask for help. He called it right away. Here's where you get what Casey Stengel used to call it Baltimore chop. Hit down on the ball, pull it to the right side.
2-2. Fastball, and he got his man over on a ground ball to Willie Randolph. Randolph took a look but had no play. So Little advances Salazar to third. And of course, if Salazar had not stolen second, that's a double play ball. And with 1 out, Harold Baines followed by Greg Walker.
You talk about your first ball hitters. Here is one, and the last time up they started him off with an off-speed curveball, and you got to believe that he might halfway be looking for that this time up there.
Harold with 9 home runs, 61 RBIs, hitting .293 and leading the White Sox with 111 hits. Coming off a good solid month of July, and he had a base hit in the 1st inning. Strike.
fastball. He threw a good fastball in a good spot. There was nothing Baines could do. And that's what you do when you're guessing. You look for a particular pitch, and if they throw something else, you got a strike against you. But that's the gamble. You win some and lose some.
0-1 to Harrell, the infield up. And he checks 1 ball and 1 strike to count. 2-2 in the 3rd inning. Marty Bystrom and Britt Burns. White Sox and Yankees opening up a 4-game series. 1-1. Change, but it missed with it. 2 balls and 1 strike. Standing at 3rd is Luis Salazar. And he hits it to the hole. It fights its way to the grass. The throw to first gets away from Mattingly. The run is in. Baines holding. Boy, did that ball have to fight its way to get to the hole.
Well, we talked about it before the game started. The grass is high on that side, and it's going to have to eat its way through there. And it really slowed that ball down and gave Robertson a chance to make the play. And with a good throw, it was a tough play for him. He would have had his man, but Mattingly couldn't come up with the short hop. You really have to drive that ball to get it through that grass, man.
Wow. Yogi thought it only grew on a golf course in the summer, huh? 3-2 White Sox in the 3rd. And there's ball 1 to Greg Walker, who singled to right in the 1st inning and picked up an RBI.
I guess it's one of the things that I'll always do, I guess, to my grave. But another thing, the foul lines are tilted towards if the ball hits, it'll roll foul. You check that all the time.
1-1.
I think if you took an old catcher to the ballpark, the first thing you'd look at would be the grass in front of home plate and the foul lines. Then he'd say hello to his family.
And maybe later on the wind, huh? Catchers aren't really interested except hitting. 1-1 to count. Standing at first is Harold Baines. Walker trying to nudge him around. 3-2 Chicago. We're in the 3rd. Harold Baines, with Mattingly holding him on and a left-hand hitter up, that is in the face of all statistical evidence. Harold has not stolen a base this year. He stole only 1 last year, and yet Mattingly holding him.
He's a below-average base stealer, let's put it that way, and yet Bystrom is concerned about him.
And you have a fellow who likes to pull. He's 2nd in the American League in extra base hits, and Greg Walker. So it's strange that the first baseman is holding him and the pitch is thrown over there against a fellow who just doesn't steal. There are certain things I think that baseball teams just do automatically without any real thought behind it.
Yeah, I thought that until I saw Bull Durham hit that ball down the left field line, and Baylor standing on the line makes the play. Why would he be standing there?
Yeah, but remember I think Howell's fastball was 97 the pitch before.
Yeah.
2-1. Two balls and 2 strikes to count to Greg Walker. 3-2 Chicago in the 3rd. Walker with 15 home runs. He has a great stroke. Two and 2. Fastball hit down to Randolph. He flips to Robertson, and he doubles him at Mattingly. So the Sox get a run on 2 hits and a stolen base, and at the end of 2.5, White Sox 3, Yankees 2. A familiar sight indeed, part of the New York skyline, the RCA building. And a reminder for all of us, tomorrow NBC Sports continues its coverage of the '85 baseball season. Some will see the White Sox and the Yankees. Others will watch the Brewers take on the defending champion Detroit Tigers. Coverage begins at 1 Eastern with Major League Baseball and Inside Look. The tradition is here. The memories are waiting on NBC Sports. In the bottom of the 3rd inning, 3-2 Chicago. Ricky Henderson, Don Mattingly, and Dave Winfield. Well, Burns given a run lead again. Ball 1. Henderson walked in the 1st inning and came around. Boy, you talk about climbing up a ladder. Look at those numbers from a dismal April. And what a June. Imagine hitting 350 and it's a come down. Wow. Batting .352, he is 1 point behind George Brett, who began the day at .353. Foul back. He is 2nd in the American League in slugging percentage. And he has the highest on-base percentage among players with at least 5 years of experience. He leads in stolen bases, in runs scored. What a year. 1 ball and 1 strike to Ricky. Out away, 1-2. Brett Burns and the White Sox. They've had their ups and downs. Have had the Yankees. When you look at Chicago in late May, they were in 5th place, 4.5 games back. They went on a tear. They won 15 out of 20. And by the 19th of June, the White Sox were in 1st place. They turned right around and lost 10 out of 11. So they come in here in 4th, 5.5 games back. And the Yankees have been on a roller coaster ride. Strike, and Henderson is caught looking down. He goes. 1 away. What's going on in Houston? We know the Dodgers won. What about San Diego? Let's go to Bill McAtee in that building.
All right, thank you, Vin. In Houston, the problems continue for San Diego. In the bottom of the 2nd against Lamar Hoyt, Bill Doran with his 9th home run of the year. A 3-run shot. The Astros are out quickly. 7-0. They're now in the top of the 4th, and Lamar Hoyt is gone.
Don Mattingly takes ball 1. So Lamar Hoyt, who was once a Yankee, who was traded to the White Sox and traded to San Diego, is gone. And of course, Goose Gossage is gone for several weeks. And the Padres are really hurting. The Dodgers having won their first game against Cincinnati. 1-1 to count to Don Mattingly. The Yankee roller coaster ride. Last week in July, they were even in the loss column with the Toronto Blue Jays. They were 2.5 games back, and it looked like they were really coming with a rush. Little comebacker to Burns. 2 down. Then the Yankees turned around and lost 8 out of 11. On this road trip, the Yankees lost 5 out of 8 to Texas and Cleveland, and all the while, Toronto went on a tear and won 11 out of 12. And the Yankees limped home in 2nd place, 8.5 games back. So these clubs really know about the peaks and valleys. And with 2 out, here's Dave Winfield. Winfield struck out in the 1st inning, 0 for 1. Hitting .289, 15 home runs, 64 RBIs. Strike.
You can see the difference in Burns. He's starting out ahead of the hitters, and once he does that, that makes all his pitches effective because he can change the speeds, spot them, set up other pitches.
Britt with the count 0-1. Fouled away, 0-2.
Fisk just got it, and as always, the umpire checks the ball.
Now that sounds like an old catcher.
Well, now watch what happens. Now that ball goes down, takes about an 80-calorie bite. Now look where it gets him. It's not in a, you know, now watch the umpire. Now Fisk is down. Winfield picks up the ball, and they're going to check the ball. Is the ball hurt? Oh, the ball is nice.
The poor ball. 0-2. Ball 1, 1-2 the count.
Run me crazy when they check the ball. The ball is not even covered by Medicare, for crying out loud.
3-2 Sox in the 3rd. 1-2 the count to Winfield with 2 out. Ground ball to the left is short. Guillen is there. Ozzie kind of double pumped to get him. The Yankees are gone. That's 7 in a row retired by Britt Burns. And at the end of 3, the White Sox 3, the Yankees 2, as New York glistens in the evening. He is sitting quietly in the White Sox dugout, chewing on his bubble gum. But come Sunday, he will be the cynosure of all eyes here in New York. Tom Seaver trying to become only the 17th pitcher to win 300. What a day that's going to be. Sunday. Here's Carlton Fisk, followed by Oscar Gamble and then Ron Kittle. 4-1.
That's funny you said that, because that's what Guillen said to Seaver before the game. He says, Sonny, you're going to be the cynosure of all eyes.
Here's Carlton. Look at those home run numbers. You know, I couldn't help but funny things happen, and it brings back a memory when Fisk was just shaken up on that pitch in the dirt. There was an organist in Connie Mack Stadium many years ago, I think, who prided himself on playing a song applicable to whatever situation would arise. And remember Stan Lopata, the big catcher for the Phillies?
Yeah.
Okay, well, he got hit even worse than Carlton Fisk. I mean, he went out. He was stretched. Ground ball to short. Up with it there is Robertson, and a high throw, but he got him anyway. Mattingly did a toe dance. Bad throw. Good play at the other end. One away. Anyway, Stan Lopata is hit by the pitch, and he is almost unconscious, right? And everybody in the ballpark knows exactly where it hit him. And the organist figured, I got to play something to cover up, right? Played On the Street Where You Live. Really? I swear to you. Tony La Russa doesn't think that Fisk was out at first. Here's another look. Why are you laughing? Speak to me. Say something, catcher. That's great. Thanks a lot. 3-2 White Sox in the fourth.
He got him on the street where you live.
That's right. And here's Oscar Gamble, who grounded out in the first inning. Off speed, ball one, 1-0. Take a look at that. Oscar Gamble, open stance, hanging over the plate. Ground foul. 1 ball, 1 strike. 1 out in the fourth. The White Sox 3 runs, 5 hits, and the Yankees 2 runs, 2 hits, and 1 error.
You could really see with that over the back shot that we just had, that batter's box is just literally wiped out too. You can't really tell where the lines are.
You know what's incredible about that footnote we just showed you about his home run per at-bats? Admittedly, he didn't have that many at-bats or that many home runs, but even so, the ratio, the only man who has a better ratio, figures here in Yankee Stadium. Babe Ruth. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Where would you pitch him if you were a pitcher and you saw him for the first time with that stance? Take a good look and just, you wonder, where would you pitch him?
2-2. High fly ball to right field. It's playable. Winfield is there. 2 down in the fourth inning. Oscar flies to right, and that'll bring up Ron Kittle. Kittle hit by a pitch in the second inning, and then Hewlett hit into the double play. He was on the DL and recalled July 26th, but really struggling since coming back, hitting only 120. Had a bad shoulder. Far cry from last year when he had 74 RBIs and was third on the White Sox. To Chicago. Fourth inning, 2 out. In the dirt.
La Russa says that Kittle is not swinging like he can swing. He's just not swinging that well, is the way he phrased it. But I'll tell you, in batting practice, he popped a couple of them out of here. Just jumped out of here. And one of them I really thought he hit with one hand. That's how strong he is.
Yeah, last year, he became the first player since Rudy York to hit 30 or more home runs his first 2 major league seasons. So you know he's got plenty of stock. 2-1 to count. Two balls and 1 strike to Ron Kittle. Chased it. Good breaking ball. It just ran away from him. 2-2.
He gets 2 strikes. He's liable to chase the bad ball. They're liable to bounce this one up there.
We're in the fourth. White Sox leading the Yankees 3-2. On the corner with that breaking ball, and down he goes. So Marty Bystrom picks up his first strikeout at the end of 3 1/2. The White Sox 3 and the Yankees 2. A beautiful evening in New York. Quite a ball game taking place at Yankee Stadium with the Chicago White Sox leading the Yankees 3-2 as we go to the bottom of the 4th inning. And it'll be Don Baylor, Billy Sample, and Butch Weinecker against left-handed Britt Burns. Baylor, the DH, flied to center in the first inning. It is interesting in comparing the fortunes of these two teams to look at the difference in production from the DH. Quite a disparity. High drive into deep left center field. Back goes Salazar. He's there to make the catch in the graveyard. 411 feet away. August the 2nd, only it was 1979. The Yankee captain, the late and the great Thurman Munson, was killed in his private jet while practicing takeoffs and landings in Canton, Ohio. 3 consecutive years Thurman Munson hit over 100 runs batted in 75, 76, and 77. And we mourn his passing tonight, 6 years later. And ironically, the heavy burden of more problems, disaster, hangs over this game as it does over the country, and particularly in Dallas-Fort Worth. Delta Airlines plane from Fort Lauderdale crashing while in the act of landing at Dallas-Fort Worth. John Hart gave us one brief update. As soon as we have particulars, naturally we will get out of the way to hear more. 0-1 the count as Billy Sample singled to left field in the first inning. Britt Burns, who made 37 pitches in the first inning, has settled down. He is now retired the last 8 in a row. Ball 2, 2-1. One home run in the game. That was in the first inning by Don Mattingly with Ricky Henderson aboard. It got the Yankees even, but the Sox have moved out in front again. Billy Martin, and we were talking about comparing the DHs. The Yankee DH, 20 home runs and 76 runs batted in. But remember, the DH for the White Sox sometimes involves Carlton Fisk. That's a strike. The DH for the White Sox, only 10 home runs, and if you subtracted a couple of Fisks and 40 RBIs, they're just not getting any production from that area at all. And immediately think of Greg Luzinski. Tied him up. He got it by the mouth. Barehanded by Guillen to get him. Oh, what a play by Ozzie.
That really is an Ozzie Smith play by Ozzie Guillen. It looked like Burns was going to make the play, and his follow-through kind of carried him away. He didn't get it. And watch his barehanded pickup. What a tremendous major league play. He knew he had, the only way he could make that play is barehanded it, and he did. What a tremendous play.
We were talking before about Ozzie in his rookie year and his number of errors. He has made only 8. And then you compare him with the rookie years of some of the great names in Chicago White Sox history. Aparicio made 35 errors. Carrasquel made 28. And Luke Appling made 42. And this kid has made only 8 in his rookie year. Britt Burns had trouble getting down on that ball. It wasn't hit hard. He had jammed the hitter. Burns has a congenital hip problem. It makes him slow and awkward in his fielding. That's one reason why that ball got by him. Fastball away. 2-0. Base hit by the Yankees. Billy Sample singled in the first inning. 9 in a row have been retired. That's a strike. 2-1.
You would think that his follow-through would carry him a little bit towards the third base side, but it doesn't. He really almost anchors himself as he follows through.
2 balls, 1 strike. Look at that. Almost fell down. 3-1 to count. So he tried to anchor, and
he lands very hard on that front foot, and I'm sure the landing area is very important to him. He doesn't move really to the side he's thrown to, which would be the third base side for him.
3-1. High pop fly into shallow center. Little and Guillen go out. Here comes Salazar, and it's Guillen. So Ozzie is everywhere. And the Yankees are gone. That's 10 in a row retired, and it is still 3-2 Chicago. And we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. We're going to the 5th inning, and another beautiful bird's eye view of Manhattan. Do you remember Elliot Lewis? My tower in Manhattan. In the 5th inning, 3-2 in favor of the White Sox, with Tim Hewlett followed by Ozzie Guillen and then Luis Salazar. Strike. Hewlett hitting .271. Double play started at shortstop by Andre Robertson. 0-1. Fouled away. Hewlett, Guillen, Salazar. If anybody gets on, Brian Little. Marty Bystrom making only his 2nd start and his first at Yankee Stadium. It's a big night for him. Ball 1-2. Bystrom opened the season on the 60-day disabled list, reinstated on the 23rd of July. And Dennis Rasmussen was optioned to Columbus to make room for him. White Sox were in the 5th. Nobody out. Good fastball. Zipped him on the corner. Let's get another sports update, and we'll go to Bill McAtee in Manhattan.
All right, Ben, top of the 4th in St. Louis, and Mike Schmidt has broken the scoreless tie between the Phillies and the Cardinals. A solo home run to the opposite field off John Tudor. The Cardinals have lost 2 straight. The Phillies would like to make it 3 in a row. 1-0 Philadelphia.
Okay, Bill, it's still 3-2 Sox here in the 5th inning with 1 out. And Ozzie Guillen, who made that sparkling play on Billy Sample and then went out into shallow center to take care of Butch Weininger's pop. Hitting .261, hits it the other way into left field. So Billy Sample gets it back in. A 1-out single will bring up Luis Salazar. That is hit number 6 for the White Sox.
And LaRusse has got a chance to do something now. You can see Salazar taking a good look at his third base coach, Jim Leland. He put a play on. Obviously, the release point as far as Bystrom is concerned, it's a slow release. They can run on him, and Salazar can handle the bat.
And, of course, Tony La Russa knows that Salazar is not the kind of fella to eyeball very many pitches. We mentioned at the start of the game he had only walked 8 times this year. Fly to center, had an infield single, 1 for 2. So we watch Guillen.
I asked Billy Martin before the game about pitch outs. He said he watches the runner. He doesn't look at the manager or the other coaches. Runners usually will tip it off to him, and he will call the pitch outs from the bench.
That's Gene Michael standing up in front of Billy. Looked like a pitch out.
It was. Yes, sir, that was.
It was a half pitch out. And Weininger stepping to the right, and the pitch was really almost in the strike zone, but above it.
It was not a good pitch out at all. It
No.
could have been handled if there was a play on, but it was definitely a pitch out.
1 ball and no strikes.
Now, you just saw Guillen do 2 things at first base that you would catalog how he dug in with his left foot as he was getting his lead. Does he do that on every pitch or just when he's trying to make like a starting block? Let's see. He did it last time. He did not do it yet. Nope. Nope.
And he goes. And the hit and run play is a fly ball to shallow right. The infield tried to decoy Guillen, but he's back as Winfield makes the catch. Did you ever get fooled on that when you were playing?
Oh, yeah.
The shortstop make him believe it's a ground ball?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There was a guy who was Cincinnati, ended up with the Cardinals. Eddie Miller was very good at that. He could decoy. He could, had me sliding in there, and you feel like a real self-made idiot when you see the ball popped up.
If you're the runner and you're breaking, you can't really get help from anybody.
No.
You can't look over at the third base coach on that particular play.
No, but on a hit and run play like it was with me, there was no reason for me to look at the bag. I should have looked at the hitter and followed the ball.
Well, we have 2 down. Guillen at first, and here's Brian Little. Single to right, grounded to the right side. 1 for 2. We'll watch Ozzie now with 2 out. Remember, we told you that Little loves to bunt.
Just a footnote, when that would be one of the things you'd keep in mind, that Guillen ran on the pitch after he'd built like a little starting block. I mean, I don't say it's a tip-off, but it would be something you would remember. You'd watch him and say to yourself, does he do it all the time before he's going to steal?
Kind of screwing his spikes in the ground there, that left foot.
It was more exaggerated the other time.
0-1. Full swing drive into deep right. It's going to go if it stays fair, and it hooks foul.
Well, if I were Billy Martin right now and I was calling pitch outs, I think this is where I'd call it. Right here. Weininger is going to go out and talk to Bystrom. He got that ball up. There you see Billy. He's Gene Michael. Is really up, and Little jumps on it. Nothing that a hitter likes better than a high fastball. That is a high fastball. I make a power hitter out of anybody.
So Billy watching Marty Bystrom's every move now here in the 5th inning. 3-2 White Sox. And there goes the runner. And the ground ball to the right side. Tricky hop. The bottom dropped out of it, but Randolph stayed with it to get him. So a base hit and nothing else. A man left. And we've got 4.5 in the books. And at the end of 4.5, 3-2 Chicago. Bottom of the 5th inning with the White Sox leading the Yankees 3-2. And it'll be Willie Randolph, Andre Robertson, and then Dale Berra. Randolph struck out in the 2nd inning, and the count 0-1. Three runs, 6 hits for the White Sox. Yankees 2 runs, 2 hits. They're going to check at first anyway. No swings as Terry Cooney, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike. Randolph trying to get something started, leads the Yankees in walks with 52. A pretty good leadoff man down there in the number 7 slot, followed by Andre Robertson, Dale Berra. Then you get up to the top and Ricky Henderson. There's Robertson. 1 ball, 1 strike. Ball 2. 2-1. In case you aren't with us, the White Sox had 3 singles by Little, Baines, and Walker, and a scoring fly ball by Fisk. Mattingly hit a 2-run home run in the 1st inning to tie. 2 infield singles and a stolen base, and the Sox took the lead. Bouncer up the middle, backhanded by Brian Little, and then he can't make it.
He just couldn't get the ball out of his glove, and looked like he started to throw it 2 different times. Never could get it out of the glove. Watch him. He's got it. Whoop, whoop,
Look at Guillen trying to get out of the way. There's another angle of it.
It's always a tough play when you're running away from the base you have to throw to.
So the crowd comes alive here in the bottom of the 5th inning with the White Sox leading 3-2. The Yankees have the tying run aboard, and Andre Robertson at the plate. Randolph held on by Greg Walker. Strike. Randolph at first has stolen 9 out of 15, and Robertson checking with Gene Michael to see if the bunt is on or not. Dale Berra on deck. Randolph has stolen his last 7 straight. after a very wobbly start where he was caught 6 of his first 9 tries. Strike. Pudge taking that low pitch and just pushing it right out in front. That's a textbook play for a catcher.
That is, because once the base runner sees the ball in front of the catcher, he's not going to take off. And not only did he block it, he pushed it out there as if to say, if you take off, I'm going to shoot you down.
Carlin has to be ready for the bunt, particularly if he knows that Robertson has been slumping. 1 for his last 13 at bats. So the Sox looking bunt. 1-1.
Many times when you throw over there, you're watching that batter's hands to see if he tips off if he's bunting. Robertson gave no indication.
Swinging and hits it foul off to the right, out of play. 1-2 the count.
The guy who can really tell is the catcher, because when you motion to throw over there, you just zero in on his hands, and if you just see a little flex or a little flick, because you'd go by it, but if you see nothing, you certainly couldn't trust the hitter to think that he's swinging.
Well, with 2 strikes, it would be doubtful. And Tim Hewlett goes back to a normal depth at third. Walker's still on the bag at first. 1-2 the count. Billy Martin may be hanging out a sign as he adjusts his cap so very carefully. Gene Michael watching him. Fouled away.
Billy's a very active manager. He'll hang out signs, he'll hang out decoys. He gives signs to both his third and his first base coach.
All eyes on Willie Randolph, representing the tying run here in the 5th inning. And particularly those of Britt Burns. Had retired 10 straight until Randolph had the infield single to begin matters here in the 5th. Ground ball to the hole. Ejian goes back to second for the force. That's all you can get.
He is really smooth, isn't he?
He sure is. We have a moment we can duck in some scores, bring you up to date. Look what Houston's doing to San Diego, chasing Lamar Hoyt in the 5th. Cubs nipped the Mets 2-1. Montreal leading Pittsburgh 3-2 in the 7th. The Dodgers beat Cincinnati 5-3. Oral Hershiser now 12-3. Atlanta, meanwhile, leading San Francisco 4-3 in the 7th. Detroit 4, Milwaukee 1 in the 6th. And you're right up to date. We'll duck in some more as we go along. Here's Dale Berra, grounded to short in the 2nd inning. At first has not done any running. He is 0 for 1 in stolen bases this year. Chased it. 0-2 the count. For whatever reason, we duck in a couple more scores. I was going to say, take a look at Dale Berra. I don't know why it is, but he has reached base on catcher's interference 18 times. Whether he has a strange swing, one reason or another why his bat is interfered with by the catcher, but that's a lot of times. 2-0. Doesn't look like he's on top of the catcher or anything like that.
No, and he comes forward. Usually the fella goes back and then comes forward. That's when he nips you.
1-2. Strikeouts for Britt Burns would take another look at it.
Chased a bad ball, but Britt has been doing that. When he gets ahead of those hitters, he spots it well, and he gets a big strikeout.
Ricky Henderson coming up, walked and scored on Mattingly's home run and struck out. We'd like to remind our viewers we'll be selecting the NBC Light Beer from Miller Player of the Game at the conclusion of tonight's ball game. Henderson's career batting average prior to this year was .291. He's hitting 60 points above his career average. In fact, they made a study of all the hitters in the league as to how they were hitting this year compared to their career average, and he was hitting more points above his lifetime average than any other player in the league. And look at the hitters behind Henderson. You have the defending batting champ. Then you have Winfield with all of his 100 RBIs. Then you have Don Baylor, a one-time MVP. And once in a while you get Ken Griffey, who's a lifetime 300 hitter. And there's Don Mattingly hitting back of him. 1 ball and no strikes. The counter, Ricky. 2 down in the 5th inning. 3-2 Chicago with Andre Robertson at first. One and one. Trying to win his 12th. He's lost 7.
Here's the spot I'd go out to him and I'd say, look, the guy's not likely to run. You can't take for granted he's going to stay there because they want Henderson to swing. He can give you a lead with 1 swing of the bat. So bear down on the batter. Don't be distracted by the base runner.
2 out. 3-2 Sox in the 5th. Robertson at first. High foul. Play. That'll carry to the second deck. Tony La Russa, who didn't look particularly thrilled about things, but he's leading by a run here in the 5th inning.
Bright manager.
Oh yes, bright man. And uses hairspray. I saw it. You see that ad?
I didn't ask you.
Yeah.
I don't care.
I just thought I'd let you know.
I don't want to know.
Okay. 1 and 2 to Henderson. If you'd have been hit by a foul, I wouldn't have looked at the ball. I wanted to make sure you were okay, Joe.
No, you would have gone for the hairspray. I know what you would have gone for.
2 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 out to Ricky Henderson in the 5th inning. 3-2 White Sox. Andre Robertson, the tying run at first, held on by Greg Walker. Little ground ball. Hit that slowly down to second to Brian Little, and that's it. So the Yankees get an infield single, leave a man, and at the end of 5, it's 3-2 White Sox. Do you realize there's a full moon looking down on you?
Yeah, I saw it, and it was really exciting. Because I heard what they said in the truck. It reminds me of my head.
Oh, I knew it would bring that up.
Yeah.
Let's go take a look at the game. In the 6th inning, 3-2 Chicago. A drive to deep right, hooking in the corner and going foul. Harold Baines jumps on it, pulls it too much. And the count 0-1.
He jumped on the first pitch, a slow curveball. The time before that, I had it marked down, was the first time he threw the fastball on the first pitch. The first time at bat, slow curveball. 2 out of 3 times, slow pitch on the first one. He jumped on this one.
And the fastball away, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike. Bystrom in his Yankee Stadium debut, allowing 3 runs up to here. 2 runs in the first inning when he really didn't have much as far as a fastball is concerned, but he settled down pretty well ever since. In there, the difference in the game in the 3rd inning, Salazar had an infield single, stole second, took 3rd on an infield out, and scored on an infield single, and that's the difference. 1-2. To Harold Baines. Now 3. And lined into right field. So Baines 3 for 3. Hit number 7 for the White Sox, and it'll bring up Greg Walker.
We talk about Greg Walker's pure swing. You can include Mr. Baines in that category because he just waits on that ball and jumps on it. He's hit the ball hard all night long.
Walker with 9 home runs, 62 runs batted in. Brian Fisher is up now in the Yankee bullpen.
Here now is Walker. As we look at Fisher, Walker hit a sinker, a fastball outside part of the plate for a double play.
Popped it in the air, back a 3rd. Berra on the line, coming over is Robertson. It is Berra.
Another fastball out over the plate, pops it up, and he sees it, and he's going to watch it and root for it to go into the stands, but Dale made a good play.
And you know, some photographer will take that picture and file it, and then Walker will hit one 100 miles, and that'll look like his follow-through watching the ball going out of the ballpark. Here is Carlton Fisk having the time of his life at 37. 4-1.
And in addition to all those home runs, one of the better hit-and-run men in the league, probably the best on this White Sox ball club. He can put the bat on the ball and put it in play.
Standing at first is Harold Baines. 3-2 Chicago in the 6th inning. Strike. When you look at the White Sox, they've hit 14 home runs in their last 24 games. 10 of the 14 have been hit by Carlton Fisk. The only other Sox to homer in the last 24 games were Harold Baines, Greg Walker, and Luis Salazar. 1 ball, 1 strike. Ground foul, 1-2. Fisk was almost ready to pack it in. In fact, I think in his contract it calls for him, when he finishes, to become a broadcaster in Chicago with the White Sox. However, after going through more than a rigorous off-season training regime, I mean, he really worked himself through the threshold of pain, as he said. He put on a lot of weight.
Strength, strength weight. He even works out now after games with equipment.
About 3 times a week. On the corner, so weight or no weight, down he goes. So a good pitch for Marty Bystrom. That's his 3rd strikeout. Take another look.
He started it right at Fisk, and Fisk, you can see him flinch. He thinks it's going to hit him, and it really snaps across the plate. Now he starts it right at him. And you can see Fisk, nothing he could do but do that little dance step.
You know, I was reading an interview. Peter Gammons had an interview with Tom Seaver, who, of course, has that big date on Sunday as to whether he will or will not win his 300th. And Seaver was saying that when he pitches, he never pitches to the catcher's mitt. Never. Which surprised me somewhat.
Well, you remember the game we did with him in Baltimore. I remember that so vividly because the last strikeout that Seaver got, Fisk thought the ball was going to be on the outside corner, and Seaver threw it inside, almost got by him. Very difficult to catch Seaver until you really know him. And it was a tribute to Fisk, the job that he did in that game. I remember that one very well because Seaver pitches to his own spot.
Yeah, he'll pitch to a hitter's hip or a hitter's elbow or some other spot without any conversation to the catcher. So that's going to be quite a story here on Sunday as Seaver goes to the mound. And of course, they're already going back over the early years when he was with the New York Mets. They mentioned the fact how he wanted $50,000, and Tommy Lasorda, who was then a Dodger scout, said, "We'll get back to you." And of course, he's still waiting. Because that was the year that the Dodgers were having so much contractual problems with Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale, and I guess a young kid by the name of Seaver was just lost in the shuffle.
What a loss.
Boy. 2 out in the 6th inning. 3-2 Chicago. Gamble is grounded out and flied to right. 0 for 2. And he tried to hold up and couldn't do it, so that's another strikeout. 4 for Marty Bystrom, a man left, and at the end of 5 1/2, the White Sox 3 and the Yankees 2. Bottom of the 6th inning, the White Sox leading the Yankees. 3 runs, 7 hits for Chicago. 2 runs, 3 hits, and an error for the Yankees. Don Mattingly, Dave Winfield, and then Don Baylor. Mattingly homered in the 1st inning. This trio of Mattingly, Winfield, and Baylor stands a very good chance of being the first 100 RBI trio for the Yankees since 1977. And look at the difference in the 2 squads looking at the first 3 hitters. Mattingly, Winfield, and Baylor could very well each drive in 100 this year. 4-1. In 1977, Reggie Jackson drove in 110, Greg Nettles 107, and the late Thurman Munson 100. And before that, you have to go back in the Yankee history books to 1942 when they had 3 men drive in over 100. Those familiar household names of Joe DiMaggio, Charlie Keller, and Joe Gordon. Mattingly has only missed 2 games, fewest of any Yankee. He had a pulled groin muscle, out 2 days in May. And he has the count his way now, 3-0. One of them was his home run in the 1st inning. He leads the American League with 82 RBIs. 3-0. In there.
He constantly gives himself little reminders. You see him look at his feet. You saw him twitch his shoulder to be sure to get that back. So when he comes into the hitting area, he doesn't open up too quickly. You really got to like him as a hitter.
Oh, and how. 3-1 to Don Mattingly. That's another strike.
He wanted to take a shot at that one. He's going to regroup. You could almost see him. He wanted to swing at that one. Just couldn't pull the trigger.
This is the home not only of the home run hitter, but in the Yankee history book, left-hand hitters have really enjoyed home run success here. Three and 2. A drive to right field. Back goes Baines on the track at the wall. It's another home run for Mattingly to tie it up 3-3. A left-hand hitter hitting home runs in Yankee Stadium.
The 3-1 pitch is a better pitch than this one. This one looked like it was low out of the strike zone. He really picks it up, a breaking ball, and Britt Burns watches it, the reaction, hoping it doesn't go out, but he knows that he's in deep trouble. Baines gave it a good shot. He got up there.
Never touched it. Hit the railing over the fence. So here is Winfield. Ball 1. 1-0.
There's a case of a good hitter hitting a good pitch.
Not a mistake.
No,
and
sir.
We're all even 3-3. Remember, we mentioned earlier that Don Mattingly thinks of the 5 toughest pitchers to hit against, his #1 selection is Britt Burns. And as as he goes to a water cooler. He has burned Burns twice with home run. 1 ball and no strikes to Dave Winfield. Ball 2. We're talking about left-hand hitters and home runs, and the names really roll off the tongue here in Yankee Stadium. Ruth and Gehrig, Mantle, who switched, and Maris, Berra, Jackson, Nettles, Dickey, Henrik, Keller, Pepitone, Mercer. They had a time here. Ball 3. In fact, in the top 11 Yankee home run hitters, there's only one right-handed batter. But what a batter. Joe DiMaggio. In fact, over a 30-year period, only twice did a right-hand batter lead the Yankees in home runs. Elston Howard in '63 and Bobby Bonds in '75. And that's ball 4 to the big guy, and that'll bring up Baylor.
Billy Martin had an unfortunate occurrence. We asked him about his health.
I feel all right, Joe. I just got out of the hospital yesterday and flew up today from Texas, and had a little puncture in the lung and a little short of breathing, and I got a little air still in the cavity of my shoulder, about 10%, but once that goes away, I'll be all right.
And Billy felt badly. The doctor involved is a family doctor, and it was just one of those unfortunate occurrences. But Billy said, as you heard him, he's feeling better. Although I must say, he looked a bit tired as we talked to him.
He sure does. He looks very drawn. Well, Britt Burns has surrendered the tying run. Now a walk to Winfield. Mike Stanton throwing back of him in the pen. And Don Baylor, the DH, who twice flied to center and once took him in the area of the 411 sign. There's Stanton. So Baylor at the plate. Winfield held on by Greg Walker. Ball 1 to Don Baylor. You're looking at a one-time most valuable player, and in each of his last 5 full seasons has driven in at least 85 runs. 1-0, the count to Don Baylor. Coming up for it, and that'll be the first out of the inning. Let's get another report on sports, and we'll go to Manhattan and to Bill McAtee.
All right, Vin, they're in the 6th in Kansas City with Boston leading the Royals. Dwight Evans with an RBI single in the 4th, driving home Jackie Gutierrez. So after scoring 2 runs in the 2nd, the Red Sox add that run in the 4th. They're now in the 6th. They lead Kansas City 3-0.
Billy Samples single to left and was robbed of a hit on a good play by Ozzie Guillen. Winfield, a potential tie-breaking run at first, and has stolen 9 out of 12. So for a big man, he motors well.
You have to expect him to run. You really do, because the one thing that the Yankees want to stay away from is the double play. Sample is not hitting that well, and you want to get that infield broken up, and maybe he can dribble one through, or get the stolen base and give somebody else a chance to knock him in.
So Winfield at first, held on by Walker in a 3-3 tie here in the 6th inning. Has completed 7 of his 21 starts. 1-1.
Well, you can really tell on the follow-through sometimes that Burns really has some problems when he tries to anchor that front foot, that right leg. You see on that last pitch that he just kind of almost stumbled.
You can see he's on a roll, going at least 7 straight, and he's in the 6th inning tonight. 1-1. 2 strikes to Billy Sample.
Here's his delivery. Now watch when he anchors it. And you can see he really plants it hard.
Well, as we mentioned on a ball hit by Sample back in the 4th inning, he has a congenital hip problem. 1-2. Just did get a little bit of that fastball. That was almost in Carlton Fisk's mitt.
He really gives Sample a lot of room in left center field. The outfield is shifted around towards the right field line. Salazar is in right center field as you take a look at it. And Baines is over near the line. They expect him to go that way.
1-2, and there goes Winfield. Line drive, foul. Well, he got one up and in, and he jumped on that one.
That's not good pitching when you set your defense that way, and the fellow's able to pull that ball. If you're going to set the defense to hit to the opposite field, you got to make sure they go that way. And Winfield breaking on that, he would have been able to score.
I wonder on a 1-2 pitch if he wasn't really just trying to get Sample out of there, you know, just trying to move him back so that Fisk would have room to throw.
But it was an off-speed pitch.
And he made a bad pitch.
Made a bad pitch.
Boy, he's working hard. 111 pitches so far. Sixth inning, a 3-3 tie. We'll watch Winfield. He's gone. The pitch outside, the throw. They got him, and got him easily. Brian Little had the ball in plenty of time.
It was an unusual count for Winfield to run. The reason I say that, 1 ball and 2 strikes, it was almost like Britt Burns was going to use that pitch to set it up. Winfield was taking a look to see what happened and why Sample didn't take a whack at it like it was a hit-and-run play as opposed to run and hit. Fisk really gets that ball there in good shape, and he just slides into the tag.
So Little takes care of Big at second base, and with 2 down, 2-2 to Sample, who pulls it into left field. Base hit. That has to be frustrating to the Yankees. So Sample is 2 for 3, and the one time they got him, Ozzie made an excellent play at shortstop. That's only 5 hits for the Yankees against Britt Burns, and the hitter is Butch Weiniger. So Butch coming back off the DL. He was on it the 18th of July. 0 for 2 tonight.
You could see Fisk before Weiniger got in the batter's box, motion to Burns, would get a good look at Sample now, because it's highly unlikely that Weiniger can drive him in from first base, so he would be a threat. You have to be alive at first base to steal it. Try it anyhow. And that's all you have to do is try to keep him close, because then you get a shot at him on the first and third play. The outfielders get a chance to nip him at third base if you can cut him down 2 steps.
Sample has not tried to steal a base all year. 2-0 the count to Butch Weiniger. Willie Randolph on deck. 2 out in the 6th, and it is Mattingly 3 and the White Sox 3. Mattingly a 2-run home run in the 1st inning and a solo job leading off the 6th.
See the difference in Burns in that little stretch in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th inning when the scorecard was neat and he was mowing them down. He was ahead of the hitters. He has fallen behind the hitters here, and he's heading for trouble.
And he doesn't really have a strikeout pitch working. His high is 12, and he has 5 so far tonight. And he has walked him, and he could be tiring now. His pitches are really coming up. So 3 walks, but 2 in the 6th inning. And Pudge out to talk to him. Willie Randolph struck out and had an infield single. So Randolph putting Tony La Russa through the pressures.
You can see Tony giving some signs, and I'm sure that Fisk went out there and just warned him that, hey, this is one of those spots now. You just walk the guy, don't let up. Because if you let up, he'll jump on that first pitch, so put something on it.
Randolph has 3 home runs, but his strength, of course, getting a base hit and keeping it alive and get Sample home. 3-3 tie in the 6th inning with 2 out. Strike.
Good breaking ball.
Randolph hitting .291. And he finds Sample at second, Weininger at first. 2 out. A drive into right center. Luis Salazar on the dead run. Makes the play like he's been playing the outfield all his life. So the Yankees get 1, leave 2, and at the end. Report again will be following the local news, which will follow the ball game, of course. 3-3 in the 7th inning.
There's a lineup card that Billy Martin uses. That's the way he keeps track of the ball players. On the other side of it, he usually puts a card how they defense them, whether to play them to pull or straight away or what have you. Billy leaves nothing to chance.
Brian Fisher picks up with a 2-2 record. A young man with an outstanding arm. As you can see, 4 saves and an ERA of less than 2.5. He came to the Yankees from Atlanta in the deal that sent Rick Cerrone to Georgia. Marty Bystrom went 6 innings, did very well. 3 runs, 7 hits. Brian Fisher working on Ron Kittle, who was hit by a pitch and struck out. 1 ball and no strikes. Two and 0. A very encouraging performance from Marty Bystrom for the Yankees and Billy Martin. 3-0. Bystrom last time out couldn't get out of the 2nd inning and was charged with 7 earned runs, and tonight he pitched a tidy 6 innings. Brian Fisher. Strike. 3-1. Kittle followed by Hewlett, then Guillen. Fastball, and he was late. 3-2. After we've had a disposition of Ron Kittle, we'll duck in a few scores. And he's walked him on a low fastball. Weininger has to go back and get it, and Kittle will hold it first. So Fisher, that's the first walk given to a Sox hitter tonight. Houston leading San Diego 9-1 in the 5th inning. The Cubs nipped the Mets 2-1. Montreal over Pittsburgh 3-2. The Dodgers beat Cincinnati 5-3 in the first game. No score in the 3rd inning of the nightcap. The Giants leading Atlanta 7-4 in the 8th. 4-1 Detroit over Milwaukee. That's a final. Baltimore leading Cleveland 7-6 in the 8th inning. Reed Nichols is running at first, and the bunt fouled off by Hewlett. So Kittle gives way to Reed Nichols. Nichols, who came to Chicago from Boston in the deal that sent Tim Lawler to Fenway.
Berra is really charging hard at 3rd. If Hewlett is going to continue to bunt, he's going to have to make Mattingly field that ball. Dale is coming hard from 3rd.
Hewlett has hit into a double play and struck out 0 for 2. It's a good sign for the White Sox that Nichols is in there to run, because he was sidelined with a pulled groin muscle on the 20th of July and evidently is healthy. Bunt is fouled. 0-2. Hewlett hitting .270, has 3 home runs, 26 RBIs. Joe Nosick coaching at first for Chicago. Jim Leyland at third. In taking apart the White Sox for 1985, we're right at the dividing line as far as the score is concerned. Pitch out, 1-2. In games where the White Sox score 3 runs or less, and remember they have 3 tonight, their record is 4 wins and 39 defeats. Supposing they get 4 runs or more, turn it completely around for La Russa and company. 2-2. In games where they've scored 4 runs or more, they've won 46 games and lost only 9. So 3-3, we're getting into White Sox territory. We're in the 7th, 3-3 tie.
You could see Nichols really checking with his first base coach, Joe Nosick. If you were behind that plate, you'd really be looking for him to be moving. He was ready. You could see him break. And also the thinking that if you're going to run him 3-2, you might as well run him 2-2. Use the play to stay away from the double play, which is the inning record.
Brian Fisher is really keeping an eye on him.
He's getting back there standing up, which means he could extend that lead just a bit. Usually the rule of thumb is a body's length and a step away.
To Tim Hewlett. Got him. For another update, let's go to New York.
All right, Ben, you mentioned the score at one time in Houston. San Diego trailed the Astros 10-1, but with that solo home run by Greg Nettles, the Padres have cut that lead to 10-7 in the bottom of the 7th. 12th home run of the year for Nettles.
Well, that seems appropriate enough, Bill, to cut into a Yankee game to talk about a Greg Nettles home run as San Diego tries to get off the deck against Houston. 10-7. Here's Ozzie Guillen, grounded out and singled, 1 for 2. Pitch out, no action. Nichols holding at first. 3-3 with 1 out in the 7th.
They're really playing Guillen shallow. Berra is in at third base in the infield. The outfield is shallow, and Sample in left field is towards the line, so you can see they're playing him straight away.
With the runner going, the throw down is not in time. So Nichols stealing second, and the tiebreaker is now out there in scoring position.
It was a matter of which pitch was he going. You knew he was going to be running. Billy tried to pitch out on the first one, and it didn't work, and La Russa came right back. Good jump. Throws it a little bit high. Had to be right on the bag to get him. I tell you, it's going to be a job for Nichols to score from second base, as shallow as they are in the outfield.
Ozzie Guillen trying to pick up Nichols and break the tie. Time called as a ball comes rolling out on the field. One and one. So in the inning, Kittle walked. Nichols ran for him. Hewlett struck out, and Nichols steals second. And the count 1-1 to Ozzie Guillen. Nobody to cover. Henderson up a few steps in center, and Billy Sample has shortened up a tad in left. Winfield, however, remains back in right. And time, no pitch, no pitch. Cincinnati has erupted in that second game to take a 5-0 lead as the Reds battle for a split. Meanwhile, Toronto beat Texas 5-3. Philadelphia leading St. Louis 1-0 in the 7th inning. Boston 3, Kansas City 0 in the 6th inning. Wouldn't chase it. 2-1.
Usually with the left-hand batter, it's the second baseman who holds, and it's the shortstop who jockeys in. But they expect Guillen to hit the ball to the opposite field. So Robertson is holding the short, and it's Randolph who's jockeying.
2-1 the count. Fastball fouled away. Down in the Yankee bullpen, Dave Righetti begins to stretch it out. Three runs, 7 hits for the White Sox. 3 runs, 5 hits for the Yankees. Reed Nichols at second with 1 out in the 7th inning. And Brian Fisher picking up for Marty Bystrom. You could see he was in the Atlanta Braves organization. See that memory of Johnny Sane, the way he turned toward second base. Even for a split second, you had to think of John. Fastball fouled away.
You know, when you see jockeying at second base, it isn't just to try to pick somebody off. It's to cut down the lead to give the outfielders a chance to make that play. They're just trying to move the outfielders in. They want Michaels on the top step of the bench now, trying to get Winfield. Get his attention, move him over a little bit over in right center field. They don't expect him to pull the ball at all. If he's going to hit it, it'll be from right center field over.
2-2. And that's hit to left field, and Sample has to go back on the ball in the corner, makes the catch, and Nichols halfway to third goes back to second. You ever notice when the bench moves an outfielder, and it doesn't make any difference who the outfielder is, he moves grudgingly?
Constantly, and then if you're not constantly watching him, he'll move back as Billy Martin comes out. But that was a good piece of pitching, and it was good defense because they set it up that way, and Fisher made sure that he hit it that way.
Luis Salazar is due up, followed by Brian Little. Billy getting a welcome home from the fans. This is his first night back managing since the team was in Texas. So Salazar with the left-hand hitters after him. And the folks say welcome home. If the Yankees can win tonight, Billy Martin's record as a manager will be 50-25 if they win tonight. Here's Salazar, flied to center, singled the hole at short, and flied to right. Strike. Salazar hitting under 200. Now here's a case of a lifetime hitter. His career average 269, comes over to the American League, and he's not hitting 200. Evidently, it's going to take him a while to get to know the pitchers. And he doesn't have any time now. Breaking ball in there again. 2 little sliders in the count, 0-2. So Brian Fisher gets the jump on Luis Salazar. 3-3 tie in the 7th. You see Butch Weiniger telling Brian Fisher, get your arm up. He dropped it just a tad in that delivery, and Weiniger spotted it immediately.
He didn't bend into that pitch at all. He just kind of threw it straight up.
That's why that breaking ball was so high, and Weiniger was quick to point it out. And a line drive right at Willie Randolph. So the White Sox leave the tiebreaker at second base. And at the end of 6.5 innings, the White Sox 3, the Yankees 3. And now, here's another edition of Baseball Remembers.
Footwork presents Baseball Remembers. Willie McCovey remembers when the 1962 World Series came down to his last at-bat.
The first pitch he threw to me, I hit it long and foul over the right field fence. I got way out front of it. Then the very second pitch, I had a line drive that I thought and everybody else thought was a base hit that was going to win the series. But I didn't know Richardson was standing there. I found out later that he wouldn't have been playing me over there, but apparently he went over there to kind of smooth off the infield a little bit, and before he could get back around to where he would have pitched me, I guess Terry was already in the process of making his pitch. It was just one of those things. I hit the ball as well as I could, and it just happened to be right at him.
Yankee Stadium, the house that Ruth built. Another bird's eye view on a beautiful evening. Temperature somewhere around 65 degrees and full moon time. You know, in California, they talk about the blue moon.
Arizona, too.
Yeah, they really have a blue moon out there because in 1982, there was a volcano that erupted in Mexico, and there is so much debris in the air that there is actually a blue cast to the moon on the West Coast and in the far west. Meanwhile, Andre Robertson takes ball one. Robertson struck out, hit into a force play, 0 for 2. Andre, originally signed by Toronto, now trying to catch him. Fouled away. 1-1. White Sox on 3 hits and a scoring fly ball. Got 2 in the first inning. Mattingly homered with Henderson aboard to tie it up. A couple of infield singles and a stolen base gave the Sox a 3-2 lead, but Mattingly homered again in the 6th inning. And there's a drive into center, base hit. Salazar over to cut it off. With a runner at first and nobody out, let's get a sports update from Bill McAtee in New York.
All right, Ben, in St. Louis, the Cardinals have scored 3 runs in the 7th to take the lead against the Phillies. 1 here. John Tudor with a pop-up, but Arguello and Samuel bump into each other. The ball falls. Ozzie Smith scores. It's 3-1 Cardinals.
All right, Bill. Bobby Meacham now running at first for Andre Robertson.
Here's a spot where you really want your pitcher to just lay that ball in there to make sure that Dale Berra bunts the ball, and you'd have your first baseman charging hard, certainly your third baseman, because if there was ever a spot right here for the bunt, I mean, you just almost guaranteed that it is. You got to make sure that he does.
And Henderson, Mattingly, and Winfield all lined up back of Berra. He pulled the bat back. 1 ball and no strikes. Dale is grounded to short and struck out. 0 for 2, checking with the stick. Gene Michael coaching at third. Bobby Meacham running for Andre Robertson in the 7th in a 3-3 tie. By the way, Reed Nichols, who ran for Ron Kittle, is in left field. He only changed for the Sox. There he is. And the Chicago bullpen is quiet, at least for the moment. The count to Dale Berra. Fouled it away. 2-1. Not much of an extension on that bunt. Usually you see the arms fully extended, the bat out. Dale barely got it out.
That was not a good attempt. That was not a good attempt bunt. You lay the bat parallel to the ground and use it much like a glove. Catch the ball off the bat. He gave no indication that he would be bunting. I was watching him, but again, you might have, maybe Fisk saw something. He's checking for a sign again. Yeah. They may have switched off.
But watch Meacham. He holds. And the bunt foul back. Boy, Dale doesn't look like he has bunted much. Let's just see. So far this year he has 2 sacrifices, but remember, he played in only 4 games in July, a dozen in June. And Billy Martin doesn't look too thrilled about things. 3-3 tie in the 7th. Sox still keep Hewlett right at the bag at third. Walker ready to push off first. Well, there's an edge, a full count.
Now, Billy's got a couple decisions to make here. He had him bunting even though there were 2 strikes. And will he run him? Will he hold him? You got to stay away from that double play. Dale is not sure of the signs at all. Billy flashing them. Gene Michaels is going through them. The wheels are spinning here.
Berra has struck out about 20% of the time, so he's a little risky up there. Let's see.
Meacham at first base was checking with Willie Horton. Willie's going to go over and whisper something to him. You'd have to look for him to run here. You can't really go by the fact of how many strikeouts Dale has had, because you got to stay away from that double play. He's got to get the bat on the ball.
3-2.
I'd run him.
He's not going. And there's the bunt, and it's going to be a one-hopper to Hewlett in the dirt to Guillen, and everybody's safe. So they were afraid to run him, and Berra almost bunted into a double play, and instead they come up smelling like roses.
Yes, they did. It was not a good bunt attempt. And Meacham was not breaking off first base. The throw by Hewlett was low. Like he threw a sinker. Guillen couldn't come up with it. And everybody's safe.
It'll be an error charged to Tim Hewlett. And with runners at first and second and nobody out, Britt Burns is in a lot of trouble.
Billy stayed with that bunt even with 3-2.
Mike Stanton has been down in the pen. In the inning, Robertson singled to center. Meacham ran for him, and when the count goes 3-2, the error by Hewlett really scrambles Burns' eggs, and you have 2 on and nobody out with Henderson, Mattingly, and Winfield coming up.
What do you do now, Coach?
You got yourself a lot of trouble,
sir, because Henderson, with that great speed, very unlikely to do a double play. You got to move the guys over. You can hit the ball out of the ballpark. Billy's got a lot of options, and he's going through a series of signs once again.
All right, La Russa has first talked to Burns, then he talked to Guillen and to Hewlett. The White Sox are looking bunt.
Have to.
Henderson has walked, struck out, grounded out. Earlier this year against Kansas City, Rickey Henderson had the thrill, with quotes around the word thrill, of lining into a triple play, which would be quite an escape hatch for Tony La Russa. So 2 on, nobody out. Guillen is trying to bird dog Meacham. Walker is in on the grass at first. Hewlett near the bag at third. Full swing and a high drive into left center. Salazar can't get it. Meacham went back to the bag, was almost passed by Berra. There's 2 men at third. The throw to the plate is in plenty of time to get 1 and get 2. Can you believe it?
It was most unusual.
That's the understatement of the year.
Now what happens, Meacham goes back to tack up when this ball is not, the catch is not made. And all Michaels could do was motion him in. Now he's going to get Meacham easily. And Fisk looks up, and here comes Dale. So he gets him.
That's where Berra almost passed Meacham. That's
well,
what
he's
really
telling him, go ahead, keep running. And right here, Berra takes the signal from Michael. There's nothing Michael could do. He threw up his hands as if to say, I can't stop him.
And Meacham was like a fullback. Meacham is trying to throw a block at Fisk. If he can knock Fisk down, then Berra will score. But Pudge stayed on his feet and got him before he did go down.
And the second tag that Fisk made was a better tag because he didn't want that ball to be knocked out of his hand. You notice he put the glove on him first and then put the ball on him. So there's a case of a guy hitting a double and 2 guys are out.
8-6-2 double play. Here they come in tandem.
You could see Berra saying, go ahead. Now Dale almost stumbles rounding third right there. And look at Michaels throw his hands up as if to say, where are you going, Dale? Now we'll look at Fisk. Put the glove on him first and then the ball.
Well, there's one for the books indeed. A double and 2 men tagged out at the plate. 8-6-2. Salazar to Guillen. 2 putouts for Carlton Fisk, and I have no idea what Billy Martin is thinking, except maybe murder. Great play by Carlton Fisk. And being able to handle Bobby Meacham was the key. If Meacham knocks him flat, Berra could have scored. It's going to be a single for Ricky Henderson. And he takes second on the throw. So here is Don Mattingly, and the crowd at Yankee Stadium has seen one for the books. Mattingly, with 2 home runs against Britt Burns, has knocked in all 3 Yankee runs. Time. Mattingly was asking for time. Ball 1.
Say, we've had some dandies. This one last week when Dernier tags up, goes back to first. Sandberg passes him. Nobody sees it that really counts. The umpires don't call it. It's safe. Here you got a guy in the ball of 411 feet, and 2 guys are tagged out at home plate.
So here's Mattingly trying to get Ricky Henderson home and break this 3-3 tie. High fly ball into right center. Coming in and over is Baines and Salazar. Salazar for the catch, and the Yankees have messed up. No runs, 2 hits. There was an error and a base running blunder. And at the end of 7, a 3-3 tie.
Here's that play again. Now Meacham is the front runner, and watch as he rounds second base. He stumbles. Dale doesn't see it. Now he finds Meacham, and as much as says, "What are you doing here? Get going, man. Get going." And now Meacham makes the turn. That's the only place he could go. Watch Michaels, the coach. His hands go up as if to say, "Where are you going?" Now Fisk puts the tag on him. Now watch the tag here. He puts the glove and then the ball. He puts the glove on him first and then the ball, and gets him because he, I think, was worried to get the ball knocked out of his glove.
There are people in New York who were at Ebbets Field in Brooklyn several years ago. The Dodgers were playing the Chicago Cubs. And in a rather involved rundown, Phil Cavarretta, the first baseman for the Cubs, was at home plate. And Gil Hodges and Jackie Robinson, I mean, you think that was something? Gil Hodges and Jackie Robinson were stride for stride, nose for nose. And actually, Hodges was leading by about a hair. Cavarretta tagged everybody at the plate except the umpire. So I've seen a first baseman tag 2 runners out of the plate. Now, in the hallowed shrine that is Yankee Stadium, I see Fisk nail 2. Did you, sir, ever nail 2 runners at home plate?
Not in the same play, no.
In the same game?
Sometimes.
Meanwhile, boy, we got another dandy going here, and Brian Little will start it off. First of all, Mike Pagliarulo is at third base for Dale Berra, and the Wolves said goodbye to Dale. Bobby Meacham is at shortstop, and the Wolves tried to take a bite out of him, and then they applauded Dave Righetti, who was the 3rd Yankee pitcher. 3-3 in the 8th, and there's a full moon. Maybe that's why it happened. Ground ball to the right side. Willie Randolph. 1 away.
Well, I tell you, the move just made by Billy and the reaction here, Dale Berra can look for a trade, and it might be one of the best things that could happen to him.
Yeah, it's a little tough for him to come here. It was tough playing under his dad. It must be even tougher now. And for Billy Martin, of course, what a tough way to come back. So 1 out on the 8th, and here's Harold Baines. Single to right, single to the hole at short to pick up an RBI, and single to right again. He's 3 for 3. Ground ball to the hole, plugged up by Willie Randolph. 2 out in the 8th inning in a 3-3 tie, and Greg Walker coming up.
I guess of all the bizarre things we've heard, that play tonight, and then Sachs' home run the other night when he broke the coach's thumb or sprained it or did something.
Steve Sachs of the Dodgers hit his first home run of the year the other night to win a game. Rounded third. Joe Malfitano held out his hand to congratulate him. Sachs was so wired he took a swipe at Malfitano's hand and broke the coach's thumb. In all my years, I've never heard of that. Greg Walker with only 4. Neil Heaton, Dave Leeper, and then this year, Jimmy Key and Frank Viola. So Righetti trying to neutralize him. 2 out on the 8th. when the Yankees bat in the bottom of the 8th, they have Winfield, Baylor, and Sample. Dave Righetti is 7-7, but he also has 18 saves. Him down in order, and at the end of 7.5, the White Sox 3, the Yankees 3, and here come Winfield, Baylor, and Sample. Don't forget tomorrow, the game of the week. Some will see the White Sox play the Yankees. Others will watch the Brewers take on defending champion Detroit Tigers. Coverage begins at 1 Eastern with Major League Baseball and Inside Look. That's tomorrow, but tonight is the night. Julio Cruz is now at second base for the White Sox, picking up for Brian Little. It means that Cruz, a switch hitter, is now in there instead of the left-hand hitting Brian Little. Dave Winfield will start it off. Winfield has struck out, grounded to short, and walked 0 for 2. Britt Burns still in there. Now in shuffling his cards with his infielders. He has one infielder left, Scott Fletcher. He has 2 outfielders left, Mark Gilbert and Jerry Hairston, and he has a catcher, Mark Hill. But he's been using them up slowly but surely. 1 ball and no strikes. 2-0. Dave Winfield, along with Don Mattingly, they are tied in game-winning RBIs, 11. Home runs, 64 RBIs, hitting .288. We're in the 8th, 3-3. Fastball fouled away.
Can't help but think of that play, and it certainly brings home the point you can't take anything for granted. If I told you that the guy hit a ball over the center fielder's head with 2 base runners on and 2 guys were out to plate,
even he wouldn't believe it, and he saw it.
What a play.
What was it Billy said the last time we were involved with the Yankees? They just don't know fundamentals. 2-2 to Winfield. Fouled away. In looking ahead, if you're not keeping score and you wonder about the White Sox in the 9th inning, Carlton Fisk, the man behind the mask, will lead it off. Then Oscar Gamble and Reed Nichols. There you can see La Russa, and on his wall all of the players, and he's used up a few. 2-2. Ball 3. Yesterday the Cubs and the Cardinals sure burned up a lot of players in that 9-7 game.
Did you see that play when he stole the 4 bases?
The double steal.
Double steal. That was another Ripley Halloween play. Vince Coleman overslides third, get caught in a rundown, and then nobody's covering the plate, and he waltzes in.
Vince now has 74 stolen bases. 3-2 the count of Dave. Got him. So Brett Burns hanging tough. He didn't dodge 1 bullet in the 7th inning. He dodged 2. Look at all the pitches he's made. But there he is, working away, and there's nobody throwing in the bullpen. And immediately go back to that playoff game in '83 when he made 150 pitches. Maybe 1 or 2 too many. Where's Don Baylor? 3 fly balls, one of them very deep to left center. Pops this one foul. Fisk starting to come back, throws the mask away, makes the catch. You know, I meant to ask you, you were talking before, remember the foul ball when Fisk came to the dugout? You were talking about how he held the mask.
Yes.
Why bother when you go all the way over to the dugout? If he had thrown the mask 50 feet, he certainly wasn't going to have to go back.
True, if he would have done it. But what you're taught and what you learn is, as long as you got that mask, you know where it is. And the minute that you're going to make the play, flip it in the opposite direction, and you're sure not to stumble on it.
Did you ever step on it?
Yes.
Scouts.
Oh, yes.
Did you really?
Oh, yes. Stepped right in it.
Like in a paint bucket, huh?
Oh, couldn't get it out. Felt like a real dummy.
Strike one. You know, Steve Yeager told me, it was in the minor leagues, a Dodger catcher, that he used to chew gum while he caught. And one time, he blew a bubble with the gum, and it broke and stuck all over the mask, and he had to call time, and they ate him alive when he went to the dugout to clean off the mask. Not much of a swing by Sample on that pitch. He was really tied up. 0-2. 3-3, bottom of the 8th. 2 out. Who was it? Hank Gowdy? Is that who it was who stepped into the mask in the rundown in the World Series 100 years ago?
Stumbled.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Hit down the right field line, slicing as she goes foul and back into the seats.
Now, you saw Billy Sample fight off a tough pitch, yet the third baseman Hewlett is really guarding the line. There's no way that he's going to hit a ball between Hewlett and the third base line. Now, he's a little bit away from the plate. It's on the outside part of the plate, and he just fights it off. Good pitch, fights it off. But the White Sox are going to guard that line.
1-2 the count. And after fighting off that pitch, although Hewlett is on the line, Walker is not at first base.
You know, I started to say when Winfield was up there hitting, Fisk did something. He pounded on the ground like he wanted a low pitch, and he got him on a pitch that was up. He gave his target that time to the outside part of the plate, and just as Burns was ready to deliver, you saw him kind of shift in. He's watching the hitters to see that they don't sneak a peek, and then he just kind of slides in.
1-2. Well, let's see now what he does.
He's given a location.
And another foul.
So he behind that plate is, well, Seaver says that he's pitched to 3 of the 4 best defensive catchers, Johnny Bench, Carlton Fisk, Jerry Grody, and he gives Steve Yeager the 4th one. But Fisk he's a blueprint back there.
1-2.
See what he did? He started on the outside part of that plate and just kind of eased his way inside.
2-2. Ball 3. That's one of the big benefits of the DH rule, for instance. When the White Sox played the doubleheader at Fenway Park, Fisk caught the first game. Then they gave him the second game off. He was the DH. And he went 1 for 4. That's having your cake and eat it. On deck, waiting his turn, Butch Weiniger.
You'd be so nervous, Butch. Blowing that big bubble.
3-2 to Billy Sample. 2 out in the 8th. A 3-3 tie. High drive into deep left field, but it's a lot of deep here, and Reed Nichols there to make the catch. The Graveyard of busted dreams in left center field at Yankee Stadium. And at the end of 8, a 3-3 tie. In the 9th, Fisk, Gamble, and Nichols. We're going to the 9th inning in a game that certainly we will remembered, especially in the 7th inning, when the Yankees had runners at first and second. Bobby Meacham at second, Dale Berra at first, and nobody out. Ricky Henderson hit a ball over the head of center fielder Luis Salazar. Meacham stumbled, rounding second. Berra almost passed him, but didn't. Both men tried to score. Salazar threw to Guillen, who threw to Fisk, who tagged out Meacham and Berra. A rather memorable series of circumstances. And here is Carlton now leading off the 9th inning. This telecast, presented by authority of Major League Baseball, may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Strike. Carlton Fisk had a scoring fly ball in the first inning, grounded to short in the 4th, and struck out in the 6th. 3-3 in the 9th. Fisk hitting .231. But remember, leading the league with 28 home runs. Foul back. 1-2. Rigetti, the third Yankee pitcher. Marty Bystrom went 6, allowed 3 runs, 7 hits. Brian Fisher worked the 7th inning, and now Rigetti is working his 2nd inning of the 9th. Remember we were talking about the White Sox and what happens when they don't score more than 3 and their record? Well, they're still tied up 3-3 here in the 9th. And so the game is very much up in the air. Busted bat and a line drive single. So Fisk opens up with a solid single to left, and that will bring up Oscar Gamble. Fisk is a very good base runner. It's his 4th year in double figures for stolen bases.
He uses that delayed steal, but you'd be looking for the bunt here. Oscar's going to have to bunt, and Pagliarulo has moved in close at third base, and Mattingly will be charging hard.
Fisk has stolen 10 out of 16. He stole his 100th base back in May. And now let's see as Oscar Gamble climbs in. The Yankees, of course, looking bunt. Pagliarulo well in on the grass. Mattingly ready to push off the bag at first. Mattingly coming to the plate, and the pitch inside, down to second goes Fisk, the delayed steal, and he got away with it.
As soon as Mattingly broke to the plate, Fisk took off, and he had about 6 steps, and then Weininger had to wait right here. He's gone. He already broke. Weininger gets rid of the ball, decent shape. He did a double pump there, but not even close. And now they're going to have a meeting, because Oscar Gamble, strictly a pull hitter, unless he's going to make a change here and send up a pinch hitter, which it looks like he's going to do.
And Scott Fletcher, his last infielder, will come up. I was just thinking, you talk about salt in the wounds. Imagine if the Yankees are beaten on a heads-up base running play.
Well, they're getting close to having a good chance of that exactly happening, because Fletcher, you got to look for bunt here. He's got to pick up the base here, and then you really got a chance with the fly ball, the ground ball. Infield will be in. That's a big stolen base.
Number 1, Scott Fletcher.
That's Gene Michael pointing from the dugout. They want Winfield to come way up in right field. Dave is deep in right, and they're saying, hey, come on in. The center fielder Henderson is up a little. Sample remains the same, and Winfield came up exactly 1 step. Mattingly is looking bunt, and he has a free rein. The decision will be Pagliarulo whether to come or back off to the bag to try and get Fisk. Meacham is trying to bird dog Fisk and cut down his lead at second.
Got to watch for the play from the catcher to the shortstop.
walk on the bunt. And the count 1 ball and 1 strike. So Tony La Russa trying to get Fisk around. And he has Scott Fletcher hitting for Gamble. He inherited a 1-0 count. Now it's 1-1.
Runs are tough to come by, and Tony's going to try to scotch tape one in here.
After Scott Fletcher, you have Reed Nichols, who got into the game running for Kittle. So they're trying to put a squeeze on the plate. Mattingly ready to come from first. Pagliarulo is also coming now with the shortstop covering. The bunt to Pagliarulo. The play to third. They got Fisk.
They did not switch on the first one. They did on the second one, and Fisk just ran right into it. He was a dead duck from the word go, because the ball is bunted right to Pagliarulo, and he's going to third base. No other place for him to go. He didn't even hesitate, and they're waiting for Fisk to come there. Good play by the Yankees. They switched after the first pitch. You can see Meacham coming over there. The ball's there in plenty of time, and look at him block that play, drop that knee. No way was Carlton going to get in there.
Boy, that's an expensive way to block third with that leg without any shin guards, with Fisk coming right in at him.
Yeah, but if you butchered up a base running play, you're going to do everything you can.
Yeah, you're right. So a good play from Pagliarulo to Meacham, and Carlton Fisk is nailed. And a welcome now to all you folks who've been watching the San Diego-Houston game. We really got one going here at Yankee Stadium. It's 3-3 in the 9th inning. Carlton Fisk, who singled and stole second, is just nailed at third on a bunt by Scott Fletcher. And Reed Nichols is the batter. Nichols hitting .214 with a home run and 7 runs batted in. I know for the people watching the San Diego-Houston game, you're not going to believe it, but you missed one of the all-timers in the 7th inning, and if we have a chance, to those of you who are watching the other game, we will show you a play that can at best be described as bizarre. 1-1.
It'll make every highlight film going.
Foul back. 1-2. Yeah, I can see diamond visions all over the United States showing that play.
Oh, that'll be one of the prime blooper jobbies.
We can set it up quickly for the moment. The Yankees in the 7th inning had first and second and nobody out. Henderson hit a ball over the center field of Salazar's head, and the Yankees ran into a double play. But you have to see it to believe it. It'll be coming up in a minute. 1-2. Ground ball to the right side. Full turn by Randolph to get one. Safe at first. Here is the play, believe it or not. You see the 2 runners in the corner? Meacham stumbles. That's Dale Berra behind him. They're in tandem. It really looks like someone just forgot to pass the baton. Meacham rounding third. Berra's going to stumble again for good measure, and he's going to come right on through. A startled third base coach says, "Where are you going?" Meacham tagged out by Fisk, who then gets Berra on a single to center. The Yankees have 2 men thrown out at the plate. The scoring 8-6 to 2-2, meaning the catcher got 2 putouts. Would you believe? All right, here's Tim Hewlett with Nichols at first. Strike. Remember, Nichols stole second in the 7th inning.
You know, watching it again, and it's about the 5th time I've seen it, Berra had ideas of stopping between second and third, and then when he was watching the play all the way and then decided to come on, which was a bad decision.
0-1 to count to Tim Hewlett. Squirted foul off the stick, and the count 0-2.
You know what I'm thinking right there when you said 8-6 to 2-2? With all the lotteries we got going across the country, man, there'd be some folks jumping on that number.
Yeah, although, I don't know, that's a loser number for New York and a winner in Chicago. 8-6-2-2. It was certainly a loser for that man. 0-2 the count to Tim Hewlett. And there goes Nichols. The pitch is low. The throw safe. Boy, what a tag play by Bobby Meacham. Great catch as well. Wow.
Billy's going to come out. Billy can't run out there because he's not up to it, but he's going to get out there as fast as he can because it looked like Meacham caught the ball and backhanded the tag. And Billy's going to get all worked up. You can bet that.
He's saying he tagged him on the head. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
he was on the bag. Billy is saying he tagged him on the head, and the second base umpire, Darrell Cousins, is saying he was already on the bag. You missed the call.
You missed the call. I can see that. Yeah, you missed the call. Here's the play.
Boy, it's close, isn't it?
Mighty close. Mighty close. I'd have to see it again. I don't know. He got him on the head. I got to say he's out.
Well, that's okay, but Darrell Cousins says safe, so it means Reed Nichols, who has played half a game, has stolen 2 bases. That close. Hewlett still at the plate. Billy is still fuming in the dugout. On deck is Ozzie Guillen. And the count 1-2 to Hewlett. 2 out in the 9th. A 3-3 tie. They're going to check it first. Swing, says Terry Cooney. And the Yankees win a call in the 9th inning. And Nichols is left at second. And at the end of 8 1/2, a 3-3 tie. And Britt Burns is still out there. As we told you, the White Sox have only won 4 games this year where they scored 3 or less, and they need more than that. They're tied up 3-3 in the 9th. We'll duck in some scores. Houston outlasted San Diego. The Cubs nipped the Mets. Montreal over Pittsburgh. The Dodgers won the first game 5-3. Cincinnati winning the nightcap 5-2 in the 8th. Atlanta over the Giants 12-7. Detroit over Milwaukee 4-1. Baltimore beat Cleveland 8-6. We'll be back with more, but let's get to Weiniger in the 9th inning. Strike. Joe, how many pitches has Britt Burns?
148 with that one, 87 strikes, 61 balls.
148, and he's still out there. Stanton and Gleaton are back of him in the pen. 1-1. Butch Weiniger has flied to center, popped to short, and walked. Gleaton, the left-hander. 1-1. Ball 2. Well, I tell you, Burns has got to be a bull to stay out there and make that many pitches.
It's a lot of pitches.
Two balls, 1 strike. High pop foul off to the right of the plate. Fisk coming over. Can't get it. It's on the roof. Back into the seats. The thing about Britt Burns in making 150 pitches now, it's not as if he's striking out that many. He has 6 strikeouts, walked 3. But Billy Martin knows the big left-hander is just going 2-2 on everybody. 3-2. Two strikes. Fastball and a high fly ball into left center. Nichols and Salazar, and it's Nichols. So Weiniger, a fly ball to left, 1 away.
Second baseman.
So much room out there. You called it deep, deep. I can't help but almost paraphrase the line that Fresco Thompson used on Willie Mays when he said Willie Mays' glove where triples go to die.
Yeah.
And that's about the way it is out here in left center field. 411 feet, and that's been pulled in.
Graveyard of busted dreams. And the batter, Willie Randolph. Fouled away. We mentioned all the left-hand hitters in the history who have enjoyed Yankee Stadium, even though there is only a difference of 2 feet down the lines, 312 to left and 310 to right. The big difference is straight away. In right field, it falls from 310 to 353, but in left field, from 312 to 379. what, he should have been out anyway. He was running way inside the baselines. He wasn't even close to running in the lane.
And Fisk scooped it up. He used that big glove to help him. He didn't barehanded it where he took a chance that he might not get it. He scooped it up and threw to the inside part. Watch him now. 2 hands on it. See him scoop it into his bare hand.
Look at the runner. Way inside.
Those catchers can overcome anything.
Adversity. The slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. With 2 down, here is Bobby Meacham talking about outrageous fortune. In fact, he and Berra are now known as slings and arrows. Bobby Meacham couldn't start because he hurt his wrist trying to make a tag in Cleveland. So Robertson started, and then Bobby went in as a runner. And in the words of Mike Jacobs, he should have stood in bed. He pops to short, and the Yankees are done in the 9th inning. And at the end of 9, in quite a game at Yankee Stadium, a 3-3 tie. We're going to the 10th inning here at Yankee Stadium. And a chance to give you an update of exactly what happened. In the first inning with 1 out, Little, Baines, and Walker all singled, and Fisk hit a fly ball. So the White Sox had 2. In the bottom of the first, Henderson walked, and Mattingly homered to tie it up. In the 3rd inning, Salazar had an infield single and stole second, took 3rd on a ground ball, and scored on a single by Baines. In the 6th inning, Mattingly hit his 2nd home run of the game. Then the Yankees had that wreck at home plate in the 7th, and so we go to the 10th. 3-3. Ozzie Guillen, the shortstop, who's been the leading hitter through the month of July for Chicago. He hit .342 in July. He's 1 for 3 tonight. He'll be followed by Salazar and then Cruz.
Pagliarulo is really challenging him at 3rd base. Really in tight.
1 ball, no strikes. Ground ball, and he accepted the challenge. Hit it by Pagliarulo, and he'll leg it out.
He pulled him in about 6 steps and hit it that way. Meacham came up with it, but the fact that Pagliarulo was in tight made the base hit. There you see him. Look how tight he is. He doesn't have a chance on his ball. By him.
And Ozzie at first base saying thank you for the small favor. Good hustle by Meacham, who was sure trying to atone. He's getting everything. Here's another look. Meacham wouldn't quit, but couldn't get him. Okay, Guillen at first, and Salazar at the plate.
Again, Pagliarulo looking for the bunt. They're going to have to make Mattingly feel that ball. Salazar takes a good look at his 3rd base coach.
Ozzie has only stolen 3 out of 5. He hasn't done any running, and he has a short lead. The bunt. Out to get it is Weiniger. The out recorded at first, and on the sacrifice by Salazar, Guillen goes to 2nd. Remember, the White Sox had a runner at 2nd and nobody out in the 9th and couldn't do anything. So now they have a 2nd opportunity here in the 10th. Julio Cruz finishing up for Brian Little. Cruz a switch hitter, and he hasn't gotten started at all. When you look at his months, he has just kind of staggered through. He had 200 in April, 150 in May, 180 in June, 140 in July.
Sound like he was giving his weight.
Yeah, and what is really painful, of course, he signed a multi-million-dollar contract. His game is speed, but he can't get on base to use the speed. Julio Cruz. And he drives it to right, but Winfield is there. Guillen went halfway to 3rd, goes back and tags and tries to come over again and makes it. Pagliarulo playing possum, but Guillen was in there. He forgot when the ball was hit in the air, he broke for 3rd. And you rarely see anybody able to go halfway, go back to 2nd and tag, especially on a fellow like Winfield. So Billy going back out to talk to Righetti. So the tie-breaking run is 90 feet away. Harold Baines is due up, followed by Walker. No one throwing in the Yankee pen. And it might very well be that Billy's going to let Righetti make the decision. who would you rather pitch to?
I'm sure that'll be part of the conversation, and if indeed he does pitch to Baines, it's, hey, watch that first pitch, because Harold is a good first ball, fastball hitter, and Righetti's best pitch is his fastball.
Baines single to right, single to the hole at short for an RBI, single to right again for his third hit, and then grounded out against Righetti in the 8th inning. So Harold is 3 for 4.
You're going to put him on.
Yep. So that'll bring up Greg Walker.
That's a decision, and as you pointed out, Vin, that Righetti said, well, I think I'd rather pitch to Walker than I would to Baines.
Well, let's see. Walker struck out against Righetti in the 8th inning.
And you have to give Billy a lot of credit for that, because he immediately takes the monkey off the pitcher's back and puts it on his own back, because a lot of times I've heard managers come out and say, now, hey, look, if you walk him, it's okay. Don't give him a good ball to hit. And then the hitter will widen the strike zone, bloop one in there. And, man, you have to wait 2-3 weeks to talk to the manager, but that was not a good pitch. So Billy says, you don't want to pitch him? Fine. Put him on where we know where he is.
So Dave Righetti, with a 7-7 record and 18 saves, is battling to keep his head above water. The Sox have Baines at first, Guillen at third, 2 out, and Greg Walker single to right to drive in a run, grounded into a double play, fouled out, and struck out. 1 for 4. Uh-oh, got away from Weiniger, and holding at first was Baines. Guillen, of course, didn't ever think about coming all the way on that one. Baines, I think, could have gotten to second.
Looked like a high fastball. It just goes right off the glove, like Weiniger might have been looking for the ball low. It pops in and out. I'm sure they're going to give Walker a chance to take a swing or two, but you have to be looking for a possible steal attempt here.
Tell you one thing. If there is a great play on the infield and they get a force at second to get out of the inning, the fact that Baines stayed at first on that pitch that got away from Weiniger could be a very important decision on his part. 2-0 to Walker. Carlton Fisk is on deck. Busted bat foul. He'll have to go get another. And all those members of the lousy hitters club heard it, as long with me.
That ball was really a jam job. The second pitch that Righetti made to Walker, he really overthrew it. In fact, his follow-through, he had his back turned to the batter. This one was just a power pitch by Righetti, and he got it in a good spot and started the toothpick factory for Greg Walker.
2 out in the 10th inning, a 3-3 tie. 2 balls and 1 strike to count to Greg Walker. Baines does not look like an adventuresome runner at all. A very cautious runner at first. He's afraid of Righetti's move, too. Foul back. 2-2.
Well, right now, you got to say that Righetti is just overmatching Walker. Walker's overmatched. I wouldn't be surprised to see La Russa try something, maybe draw a throw and see what happens. Because Righetti, the way he's going, is going to strike this fella out.
Remember, we told you that Harold Baines has not stolen a base this year and had only 1 stolen base last year. First and third, 2 out in the 10th. Little ground ball foul to Joe Nossick. Righetti came in to pitch in the 8th inning, so this is his 3rd inning, and he has struck out 2, Walker and Hewlett. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
That was that tentative swing you talk about.
Yeah. Just trying to stay alive. The Yankees in the bottom of the 10th have Pagliarulo, Henderson, and Mattingly. 2-2. Fouled away.
Well, I don't know how hard he saw him, but he is really turning that ball loose.
Nossick might be telling Baines to loosen up a little at first. Guillen, of course, at third is a tie-breaking run.
Starting it off, cross seas.
2-2. Line drive, base hit into center. Guillen scores. Baines, a cautious runner, is going to stay at second base.
Boy, you got to give that Walker some credit because he was overmatched, but he hung in there. He really hung in there. That ball right back up the middle. Tell you, he really battled. Great piece of hitting right here. That's not even a strike. But look at him. He drilled it.
Typical left-hand hitter. Most of them 99 out of 100. Loved that ball low.
Man, good piece of hitting.
So first and second, 2 out. A run over in the 10th inning, and the White Sox leading the Yankees 4-3. And here's Carlton Fisk. Had a scoring fly ball in the first, grounded to short, struck out, single to left, stole second, but was erased, and now has a chance to pick up another. But of course, the play he'll remember and tell his grandchildren was tagging out Meacham and Berra on a single to center. You have Walker at first, Baines at second. 4-3 White Sox. Ball 2. Umpire Joe Brinkman asking to correct the scoreboard to 1 ball and 1 strike. Breaking ball is hammered down the left field line and in the corner. Baines will score. Up with the ball is Sample. Stopping at third is Walker, and into second with a double goes Carlton Fisk. And it is 5-3 Chicago.
And I'll tell you, you have to give Walker an assist on that base hit. And I say that because I don't think Righetti really got back to concentrating after Walker's base hit. In fact, I was sitting here and I'm saying to myself, that game-winning RBI, you can't tell me that a game-winning RBI as important as Walker's is the same as one that the guy gets with a ground ball that drives in the run. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, I do. And I'm looking at that picture of Billy Martin, and you don't need a caption. You can think of all the things. He's still thinking about the play at the plate in the 7th. He's thinking of the decision, okay, walk Baines and pitch to Walker, and it's just all unraveled. And the batter now is Scott Fletcher. Fouled away. Fletcher came up to bunt for Oscar Gamble and bunted to Pagliarulo, who threw to Meacham at third, and they got Fisk. So he's 0 for 1.
And keep in mind, with 2 outs, that's why that piece of hitting by Walker is so important. And if the White Sox should win this game, certainly would be a game-winning RBI. But boy, it really bugs me when a guy hits a ground ball and gets the same credit.
That's a strike. 0-2. 5 runs, 11 hits for the White Sox, 10 singles, and then the 10th inning double by Fisk. The Yankees 3 runs, 7 hits, have 2 home runs by Mattingly. Curveball hit to the hole, backhanded by Meacham, who gets him. However, for the White Sox, they pick up 2. And at the end of 9½, Chicago 5 and the Yankees 3. The Yankees will have Henderson, Mattingly, and Winfield.
Here's that play again, but study it this time. Now, here is Meacham stumbling. That is the key play. Now, watch as we roll it as Berra is looking in the outfield. Now he finds Meacham. Watch him say, come on, get going. Now, Dale is looking out there. It looks like he's going to stop right there. And then he says, no, I'm going to go. Now, Meacham definitely is going to go. Michaels is waving him on. Berra almost stumbles. And watch Michael throw up his hands as if to say, where are you going, Dale? Now, Fisk protects that ball. It's in his bare hand. Look at him put the glove out there and then puts the ball in the area. And they've got a double put out.
It's a night to remember here at Yankee Stadium as Bobby Meacham tries to be a blocking back. The trouble for Bobby Meacham, he didn't weigh enough, only 180, to upend Carlton Fisk. Well, the Major League Baseball Game of the Week has been brought to you by Miller Beer. Miller made the American way since 1855. By Ford, who invites you to drive the new Ford Escort. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Century 21 Real Estate Organization. And by today's Head and Shoulders for dandruff care that's good for your hair. Jerry Gleaton coming out of the bullpen. Career, he is 0-3 against the Yankees, and his earned run average is shocking against the Yankees. It's almost 9. He's only been in 6 games this year. He has a save, no record.
Britt Burns' record, quite impressive. He made 155 pitches, and that's plenty of pitches.
Wow.
In 9 innings, gave up 7 hits, 3 earned runs, 3 base on balls, struck out 6.
So Gleaton now is brought in to take care of the Yankees, and it is quite an assignment. He is Pagliarulo, then Henderson, and Mattingly, and if anybody gets on, Winfield. So Carlton Fisk out to talk to him. Pagliarulo has not been to bat tonight. Berra had grounded out, struck out, and a board on an error, and then Pagliarulo took over after the running plays in the 7th inning. So here we are in the 10th, 5-3 Chicago. Ball 1. Pagliarulo battling Gleaton, Gleaton. In there. Pagliarulo started his career with a bang. 9 of his first 14 major league hits went for extra bases. Billy would just be happy for him to get aboard any way he can. He's hitting .232. One ball, 2 strikes. White Sox are in their 10th extra inning game. They've won 7 of 9. The Yankees are in their 12th, and they've lost 8 of 11. 2-2. Fouled away. 5 runs, 11 hits, 1 error for Chicago. 3 runs, 7 hits, 1 error for the Yankees.
Well, I always tell the pitchers, you pitch the way you feel the most comfortable, and Gleaton, another one of those. They're growing by the day. Pitches off the stretch with nobody on. That's the way he feels comfortable. Do it.
Sure. Sometimes there's a considerable fall off for a pitcher from windup to stretch. Some pitchers really lose a lot of velocity, but they usually make up with better control. Final score, Kansas City hanging tough. Lonnie Smith did the number to give Kansas City a 4-3 victory. Kansas City began the day 2 games behind the California Angels. Got him. Little breaking ball on the corner. Little cut slider, it seemed. And so Pagliarulo goes down on strikes. 1 away. Well, tonight's NBC Light Beer from Miller Player of the Game, a salute to Britt Burns. Light Beer from Miller is happy to present a check for $1,000 in the name of Britt Burns to help fight multiple sclerosis. Boy, what a job he did tonight. 150 some odd pitches.
55.
Wow. He picked a good night for it. It's on the cool side, somewhere between 65 and 60 degrees in New York. Henderson walked, struck out, grounded out, and then hit the ball over Salazar's head, and the Yankees wound up having 2 men tagged out at the plate. Backing Gleaton up, Mike Stanton is throwing again. In the White Sox bullpen, Neil Allen is throwing just in case in the Yankee pen. Fastball, 1-1. There's Stanton. One ball, 1 strike, 1 out. 10th inning. 5-3 Chicago. He's just trying to get aboard because Mattingly on deck has had 2 home runs, and Mattingly, if Henderson is aboard, would then represent the tying run at the plate. Pop foul off first base and out of play. You have Walker and Cruz, Guillen and Hewlett, Nichols, Salazar and Baines, Fisk behind the plate, and Jerry Gleaton on the mound. And the White Sox leading 5-3, 1 out, bases empty, bottom of the 10th. Carry upstairs. Billy Martin, with all of the anguish on his face, summing up the Yankees situation right now. Fastball lifted to right field. However, has a bead on it and makes the catch 1 step from the wall. 2 down in the 10th, and Don Mattingly coming up. The executive producer of NBC Sports is Michael Weissman. The coordinating producer for NBC Baseball is Harry Coyle. The telecast of tonight's Game of the Week produced by George Finkel. Directed by Harry Coyle. Pre-game produced by Les Dennis. Technical director Lenny Stucker. At 27,118 looking on tonight. 27,118, and guaranteed they will all be going home to talk about the play in the 7th inning, where the Yankees will remind a lot of people of the Daffy days in Brooklyn. And here's Mattingly. Homered with a man aboard in the 1st, hit back to the box in the 3rd, homered with the bases empty in the 6th, flied to center in the 7th. 2 for 4. Fouled away. On deck, Dave Winfield.
It'll be interesting now to watch how Fisk and Gleaton work on Mattingly. Jumped ahead 2 strikes. Will they go out and get him, or will they set up for a particular pitch? I don't think they'd want to fool around too much around the fringes because the tying run is still in the on-deck circle.
No balls and 2 strikes to Don Mattingly. Check swing foul upstairs. Still 0-2. Each team scored twice in the 1st inning. The White Sox got a run in the 3rd. Then Mattingly homered again in the 6th to tie it up, and Chicago forged over 2 in the top of the 10th. And 2. Hit to the hole, and the Yankees are still alive.
That ball was not a strike. It was exactly where Carlton Fisk wanted it, and Mattingly, being the good hitter that he is, hit it to the opposite field. Much like Walker, a good piece of hitting. Watch that ball. If he doesn't hit it, right in his glove.
A little higher, though, than he wanted.
His glove, but it was still out of the strike zone, and Mattingly, too close to take, gets the big base hit.
Well, Tony La Russa is coming out, and he's going to the pen. Mike Stanton has pretty much pitched a game down there in the Chicago bullpen. And so Stanton will be brought in to go head-to-head with Dave Winfield.
You know, I guess you get tired of always hearing, you know, he hits a mistake, he hits a mistake. But when you see the piece of hitting that Walker did for the White Sox and this piece of hitting by Mattingly, there are the good hitters who will hit good pitches and get their base hits, and that's why they are good hitters.
The Yankees, ever since Henderson got that single in the 7th inning and the 2 outs at the plate, have not had a base runner until now, 2 out in the 10th inning. So Mattingly keeps the Yankees afloat. And now Dave Winfield will be coming up against Mike Stanton. Winfield struck out in the first, grounded to short in the third, walked in the sixth, and struck out again in the eighth.
Well, that conference right now, it boils down to one basic fact. If you have to throw the fastball, where are you going to throw it? Because we have to keep the ball in the ballpark. We can't let him hit the home run.
And, of course, in seeing a tough game like this and seeing the White Sox go into the bullpen, you immediately think of Bob James. He was the White Sox #1 relief man. James had 17 saves, but he had a troublesome knee. The knee would lock on him, and Bob finally had to come out and go on the disabled list. He did appear briefly in that Twilight Night doubleheader last night.
He had a big brace on before the game, and he took it off. He could hardly walk with it. I tell you, it all goes down. Pitching will make a good ball club and a good manager, but a good relief pitcher will make a great manager.
Well, Whitey Herzog said when Suter left St. Louis, well, I'm going to be 45 games dumber. But of course, everybody understood what he meant. We have a chance to remind you. This weekend, NBC Sports World brings you an exciting lineup of sports action. Tomorrow, Mark Holmes, the brother of heavyweight champion Larry Holmes, battles John Collins in a scheduled 12-round bout for the vacant USBA middleweight title at 4 p.m. Eastern. On Sunday, the mixed pairs bodybuilding championship, and also the NHRA World Finals of drag racing at 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 in Los Angeles. All coming up this weekend on NBC Sports World. And right now, it's all on the line. A reminder, tomorrow, a lot of you will see the same two clubs probably put on another great show, the White Sox and the Yankees. Others will see Milwaukee at Detroit. Mike Stanton 0-1 in his career against the Yankees. Working on Winfield. Dave hitting .288. 0-1. Winfield with Baylor on deck. So Mattingly at first, 2 out in the 10th, 5-3 Chicago. Got the corner, 1-1.
I would think, just watching those two pitches, that they've made up their mind and not going to get that ball inside and give Winfield a ball they can pull. See that Fisk? He does those little things now. On that pitch, he kind of leaned inside. He pounded his glove so that it made it almost sound like he was going to set up inside, and then he weaved his way outside. And the whole time, he would watch him now. He moved outside, and the whole time he was watching Winfield to make sure he wasn't sneaking a peek.
Winfield really cued that ball off the very end of the bat. So the count 1-2. The Yankees are down to their last strike. Winfield, representing the tying run, has 15 home runs and 64 RBIs. In the dirt, pushed out in front of the plate, and holding at first is Mattingly. Quite a game. Sox led 2-0. Yankees tied it. Sox led 3-2. Yankees tied it. Yankees ran out of a possible big inning in the 7th. Sox got 2 in the 10th to lead 5-3. And at 2 down, 2 balls and 2 strikes. Still alive, just did get a piece of it while losing his bat. Twisting and turning time for the managers. strikes. So with 3-2, Mattingly with Walker way back of him.
He wanted that ball inside. That was a Jam City pitch, and he just got it too low. They are really playing cat and mouse.
And of course, if Winfield gets on, then Don Baylor would represent a winning run. Mattingly ready to go with a full count and 2 down. 5-3 White Sox, bottom of the 10th. Mattingly goes. High drive into deep left field. Back goes Nichols. Gone. To be less than human if you weren't wearing a White Sox uniform and you kept thinking about Bob James. And here is Don Baylor, 5-5. So the Yankees went as far as they could go. 3-2, 2 out. And the man at the plate hits it out to get him even. Dave Winfield.
And let's not overlook that piece of hitting by Mattingly, who just poked one into the opposite field to keep it alive.
A little annoyed, I think, on that call. The count is 0-2 to Baylor. So that takes care of Baylor. However, the single by Mattingly with 2 out, the home run by Winfield on a 3-2 pitch, and the Yankees and the White Sox are still locked up at the end of 10, a 5-5 tie. King and Chowder Society. Another look. 3-2, the ball game on the line with Mattingly going. Look at that. Hosanna. And look at Stanton. The life of the relief pitcher. So Dave Winfield is the man of the moment as he drives in Mattingly with a 10th inning home run. And we go to the 11th. Rich Bordy becomes the 4th Yankee pitcher. Bystrom for 6, then Fisher for 1. Righetti went 3, and now Bordy. Bordy has been in 33 games, and he averages not quite 2 innings in appearance. However, since July 7th, he's been struggling. In 10 innings, he's allowed 10 earned runs. So we'll see as Nichols starts it off, followed by Hewlett and Guillen. Coach has turned into a pumpkin now. We have gone over midnight in New York, but what a game.
It's had everything.
It really has. There it is. Set your watch. 1 ball, no strikes. Big chopper. At third is Pagliarulo to get him. Is it the same time up there as it is down here?
How could they do that?
Tim Mueller.
Tom Hewlett grounded into a double play and then struck out 3 consecutive times. And pops it up. It'll be the shortstop Meacham. So 2 out in the 11th inning of this 5-5 tie. Ozzie Guillen coming up has grounded out, single to left, flied to left, and then in the 10th inning, single to the hole at short, and came home to score to break a 3-3 tie. It was one of the 2 runs the Sox scored in the 10th that gave them a 5-3 lead, and they let it get away. Strike. Guillen 2 for 4. So he's hit in 11 of his last 15, and I mean hit over that stretch, hitting over 440. And he's going to have another base hit. So Guillen comes up with his 3rd hit, a 2-out single. And the batter will be Luis Salazar, playing center field. Salazar flied to center, singled in the 3rd inning and worked his way around to score. Flying to right, lined out and sacrificed. So Salazar is 1 for 4. 5-5 in the 11th. Well, you talk about a high 5. It's been high and low for each team tonight. 4-1. Six-year-old Rich Bordy. He's from San Francisco, still makes his home there, and originally came up with Oakland. Right, 1-1. Salazar hitting 197. Five runs, 12 hits, and an error for the White Sox. 5 runs, 9 hits, 1 error for the Yankees, who have used muscle. With the runner going, that's a strike. The throw, he's in there, going in with his hand, and he might have gotten something in his eye. Let's see.
Might have been where the tag was made, because it was a quick tag when Randolph got the ball. Weininger gets rid of the ball in good shape. And right there when he puts the tag on him, yep, he give him a little left hand. Most base runners will tell you that they can get in there faster by a head-first slide. Here's really a frontal look. Hand is there, and no, he didn't. Knee, looked like his knee. Yeah. Knee in the face is what it was. Knee got him.
Little squirter up along first base. Mattingly was deep, and there's indecision. Coming to the plate is Guillen.
He just kept running. He just kept running. Nobody could really help him on that. They were waving him in. Jim Leyland was waving him in, but he saw it, and he just kept right on coming. And it was just indecision on everybody's part, and the Yankees were caught sleeping.
Bordy will stop. He wasn't sure what to do. Now he tries to shovel it, and it's too late. And Guillen is scoring as Mattingly turned to look at Terry Cooney.
Randolph is pointing to the plate, but Guillen just kept right on coming, and he picks up the big run. Oh, what a night for the Yankees. Oh.
So on an 80-foot single, the Sox have taken a 6-5 lead. It's going to be a base hit and a run batted in.
How can you give him an RBI? I'd give him a stolen base before I do that, I think.
0-1.
Not much you could do, though.
You know, it's interesting. Back in June, Guillen scored from second base on a wild pitch against Oakland. And he scores from second tonight on a squibber up along first. Strike. I don't even want to see Billy Martin's face now. That would be cruel and unusual punishment.
And there are a couple players that feel the same way.
Oh, my. Just out of the hospital for this. 0-2.
I'll tell you, I don't know what hotel he's staying in, but they better give him a floor that's low, like the first or second one.
And no sharp instruments.
No, no.
There goes the runner, fouled away. So Salazar was breaking.
And there was no way they were going to get him. Bordy pitched without even taking a look at him. He must have had 7-8 steps on him.
In looking ahead, the Yankees in the bottom of the 11th, as we see Ozzie taking some deep breaths. The Yankees will have Sample, Weiniger, and Randolph due up in the bottom of the 11th.
We have to reevaluate our most valuable player.
Comebacker, and Bordy has it. But we will reevaluate.
Okay.
We'll do anything you want.
Hey, you're such a nice guy.
What a guy.
What
At
a
the end
guy.
of 10.5 innings, the White Sox 6, the Yankees 5, but don't take anything for granted. We're going to the bottom of the 11th inning. 6-5 in favor of the White Sox. Dan Pasqua, the Yankees are hoping, will join that illustrious list of left-handed home run hitters. And Tony La Russa is making his way out to the mound. He had Juan Agosto throwing out there before. And he is taking the ball away from Mike Stanton, who can be the winning pitcher.
Yes,
How about that? He came in, served up the home run to Winfield, and he could win it.
And Britt Burns is there counting 155 pitches with his arms soaked in ice. Must be feeling like a 200-pound Eskimo.
We will be right back. Hope you will be too. It's 6-5 White Sox. Picture of Ozzie Guillen talking to Tim Hewlett. Earlier, we announced our NBC Light Beer from Miller player of the game would be Britt Burns. After all, he made 155 pitches going 9 innings. However, Guillen has 3 hits, has scored twice, has stolen a base, and of course it was his daring running that brought home the tiebreaker here in the 11th inning. Well, we certainly don't want to displace Britt Burns, so what we'll do is we will add Ozzie Guillen's name along with Britt Burns to that $1,000 check for multiple sclerosis.
It certainly was a manufactured run. 2 outs. He gets the base hit. He steals the base. The squibber, he literally steals home, although it was credited RBI, but he manufactured it.
However, we are writing those names in pencil, and we're keeping an eraser handy the way this thing is going. Juan Agosto pitching to Dan Pasqua. Pasqua has 3 home runs. Ground ball wide of first. Walker underhanding to Agosto, 1 away. The Yankee bench shows you what Billy Martin has, and one reason why Agosto is in there. He has taken away some maneuverability because the Yankees have left-hand hitters left. Hasse, Griffey, Marino. And when they brought in Pasqua, it was a stacked deck as far as Martin was concerned. He couldn't deal anymore. Butch Weiniger flied to center, popped to short, walked and flied to right. So he's 0 for 3. Right. Butch, a switch hitter, trying his luck from this side of the plate, as he had his swings against Burns. 1-1. Willie Randolph on deck. Well, we were talking before about the average game played by the Chicago White Sox. The average time, 2 hours and 55 minutes.
Yes.
It is now 4 hours and 4 minutes. 1-2. Oh, did he throw himself a deuce then? That's Roy Campanella called that public enemy number 1.
That was a snake. That thing really dropped off the table. Watch this thing just snap off, biting all the way. I mean, it just snapped right in there. Uncle Charlie, there it is.
Boy, that's a big league curve. So with 2 down in the 11th inning, Willie Randolph, the batter, 27,118, taking this one in. It's the first game of a 4-game series. They play Monday. Fouled away. Willie Randolph struck out, singled, flied to center, and nubbed one out in front of the plate and was thrown out. He's 1 for 4. Strike. 6-5 White Sox. Bottom of the 11th. Ball 2, 2-1. The rule about relief pitches and briefly and ineffectively is in force here, so that Augusto is pitching for the victory and not Stanton, who pitched briefly and was certainly ineffective. On deck is Ken Griffey. So if Randolph can get aboard, Griffey will have a shot. 3-1 the count. Strike 2. Well, the last time a Sox pitcher went 3-2, Winfield hit it out. You talk about an 11th hour reprieve, and Martin is asking for another. Full count. Big bounce to short. Guillen to Walker, and this one is history. For the White Sox, 6 runs, 13 hits, and 1 error. For the Yankees, 5 runs, 9 hits, and 1 error. Due to the length of tonight's game, the Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson will not be seen. Stay tuned. Local news, and then Friday night videos. Joe, what else is there to say?
Nothing but the final score. It had everything. It was, and a game like this, you say, please let's not have a strike.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe Berra and Meacham would like at least a moment to think it over, but that's about all you get in this game. Fisk tagging one, staying on his feet, and getting another. We'll be back tomorrow, or today, for that matter, this afternoon, for Joe Garagiola.